fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time. Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. Totally free and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV, the second night of our opening round of V8SCOPS coverage for 2022. It's the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series, night 2 of round 1 from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. We got some great racing last night. Now the drivers have to deal with a mandatory pit stop in a slightly longer race. In all three of our categories tonight, we're starting off with the V8s, then going to the flat 6s, and finishing off the night with the 2-litre Tourers. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and Brad Wingard once again alongside me in the commentary box. And when I have to duck out to race TCR, I shall be replaced. So, Brad, you're going through here for the whole night, and you were there for the whole night last night. It was a fantastic night of racing to start off the season on Friday, especially at a track like this one.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I don't think we could have asked for better racing if we prayed to all the gods in the world. And like you said, what a venue to have it. It's tight, twisty, big curbs that you can kind of take, but the risk of getting it off track and invalidating your lap. This track is, like you said last night, a bit shorter than its original variations, and down that back straight especially has gone under a lot of changes over the years, and if we get half as good racing tonight that we had last night, it's still going to be an amazing show. And like you said, pit stops tonight to change 2 tyres for each of the 3 races, grid set from finishing positions last night. So we're going to have a lot of fast drivers who had really unfortunate runs last night coming back through the pack, and I am so excited.
As am I. There's going to be a bit of a point of difficulty for the pit exit. Excuse me. You see turns 12 and 13, the final chicane on the track map there. Look at how the pit exit just goes straight on. The braking point for the pit entry is far later than the braking point for the final chicane. So if you're wanting to pit and you've got a set of drivers up ahead of you, you're probably going to lose time unless you decide to run straight into the back of them, in which case your race is completely done. There is pit entry, just hidden behind those trees here in the B-roll. But like we said, that's going to be a big point of contention tonight. And there's no qualifying session tonight either. As Brad said, the grid spots are set by the results from last night. So it's going to be James Anderson who starts on pole position in the V8s with Henry King alongside him. Gavin Cox and Brett O'Keefe are going to share the second row, and it's Simon Mazzomo and Darren Crosby who round out the top 6. In 7th place, it's going to be Dylan Thomas. He starts alongside Alex John. It's Craig Mason and Nathan Dragartha, 9th and 10th. Meanwhile, it's Reese Harnell and the reigning champion Aaron Gilbert starting 12th after a very difficult night last night, spinning at the start.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate start for him and a few others. Jordan Gallagher didn't have the run that he wanted. Cruz Mason and Daniel Stevens starting row 8. Dan Stevens wanting to recover after his very unfortunate night last night. Lance Charles and Anthony Green round out row 9. And Steve Warwick, DM DeGraff, and our safety car driver for tonight, Ben Christensen, filling or not filling the last row of the grid.
And we gear up to get started here in the V8s. The green flag flies, and it's not the best getaway from James Anderson, and not a good getaway from the entire front row, actually. Look at Gavin Cox. They're trying to split them too wide. He turns Brett O'Keefe, who goes into Anderson, and O'Keefe going into King as well. Dramas at the front to start off the night's racing, and they're going to have some big slowdowns to serve. Henry King already serving his, but Brett O'Keefe trying his best to skip away at the front of the field, carrying some damage. King's going to filter into 4th. Simon Mazzomo's just made his way by. King makes a mistake coming into the chicane and lets the rest of the field by him. At least Craig Mason and Aaron Gilbert trying to find his way past his teammate. Very slow car there, and it looks like that's Brett O'Keefe. My goodness, Kobe Marshall. All kinds of out of control coming into the second of our chicanes, already carrying some damage. This has been a dramatic start to proceedings, Brad.
Yeah, it definitely has. This is kind of the start that we were all expecting last night. This track is infamous for dangerous start, and Kobe Marshall again has come undone in the hairpin. He's also collected, I think that was Brett O'Keefe who's just gone off. I don't know if that's a brake balance or something, but that was the exact same incident that he had in turns 6 and 7 as well. The rear of the car just snapped around, and yeah, like you said, chaos is breaking loose, and we haven't even finished the first lap.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, dear. Still going very slow down the back stretch here. Well, we're going to go to our replays in a second, but there's still stuff happening here. Anderson alongside Aaron Gilbert. Gilbert makes the move, coming into the final chicane to end the first lap. So Aaron Gilbert will have promoted himself up to, as they cross the start-finish line, 6th. Not a bad start there for Aaron Gilbert by any means. It's Gavin Cox who leads the way from Darren Crosby, Simon Mazzomo in 3rd. Oh,
Sorry to cut you off, yeah.
That was Aaron Gilbert, my goodness.
Yeah, just got collected from behind by, I think it was Cruz Mason coming to turn 1. This is one of the replays now brought to us by Virtual Racing School. And this is that incident that's just unfolded before us, and it was absolutely none of Gilbert's wrongdoing. And I mean, he runs away wide, but then just catches out Cruz Mason behind, and unfortunately for Aaron Gilbert, that's an absolute nightmarish start for the start of his season.
Yeah, it looks like James Anderson was the one who got into him last night's winner, as that is another view of what happened to Kobe Marshall. How more cars weren't involved in that, I have no idea. But you mentioned that Marshall came unstuck again. Well, looks like a bit of 3 wide happening down the back stretch here. Marshall trying his best to get on the brakes, but he catches the grass and gets into the wall. And across the track in front of the guys at the rear of the field. That is very messy.
Yeah, that was why Brett O'Keefe was going so slow down the back straight after the hairpin, because he had to take that evasive accident again. And this was the replay of the start. It was a pretty good start for Henry King, but that's about as far as it went, because we come down now, bit of contact by the 555, veers him into Henry King, and Henry King just an innocent bystander, and then he's got to clear his slowdown, but the rest of the field is coming through, and then cold tyres, damaged car, it's all downhill from there.
All downhill indeed. Well, at the end of lap 2, Aaron Gilbert classified 14th, Henry King in 10th, as Daniel Stevens already going for his mandatory pit stop. That is what the drivers have to deal with tonight. It is a 21-lap race, and they do have to make that mandatory pit stop for at least 2 tyres. So a lot of drivers electing to take it early. The pit window opened at the end of lap 2. So that makes sense that a few drivers are going to try and get their pit stop out of the way early, maybe hope for a safety car later on to bunch the rest of the field up.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad idea, especially if you're down the back of the pack where you wouldn't really want to be. Like Daniel Stevens, we know he's a very, very good driver of these cars, and he had a very unfortunate luck last night. So getting that pit stop in that clean air is going to work wonders for him. We're on board with Henry King now on his humpback drive, down 8 spots from the start, currently following Cruz Mason down the back straight, pulls out to the outside quite early, wondering if he might go for an early pit stop or if this is a move around the outside. We're on the back of Lance Child's cars, or we were. Henry King follows back in line behind Cruz and Mason for another lap, and I haven't seen anyone else take to the lane just yet.
Cruz Mason is having a pretty good drive. It's pretty much the opposite of what happened to him last night. He had all kinds of rotten luck, so it's good to see him running so well as Daniel Stevens makes his way past Aaron Gilbert now into the final chicane, and Stevens having just taken his mandatory pit stop coming across the line, and that will be 15th place for Daniel Stevens. Good stuff there, and crucially damage-free. We can't say the same for Aaron Gilbert though. That hit coming into the first corner from James Anderson after he went for that slide in turn 1 has cost him his rear boot lid. But we focus forward to the battle for 4th. Dylan Thomas, who finished 7th last night. Oh, a bit of an oversteer moment there. I think he's gotten a slowdown. He's going to have to let Alex John by to get into 4th place. And it looks like Thomas is going to fall back to 7th as a result of that. Big shame there. Slight mess up of the braking zone from James Anderson, but he late apexes it and gets a very good run down the back stretch.
I just saw in back of my shot, yeah, there we are, Cruz Mason
no.
coming undone at the hairpin again, so he's got a meatball as well, so I'm not sure what's happening to him. No doubt we'll get a replay of that one soon, but I was going to say that James Anderson and Dylan Thomas are 2 drivers who we would fully expect to be up the front of this field, and of course Anderson having an awful start and then getting caught up in the turn 1 incident is on his recovery time. Dylan Thomas had a mixed bag of results last night. Now Cruz Mason into the pits, which I think we kind of expected if he's carrying a meatball. This is the replay of it now, Reese, and this is a very unfortunate night for him.
Yeah, it's coming out of turn 6. This is a difficult right-hander. Mason got some understeer on and whacked the wall on the outside, and that would have done a number on his front right suspension. Big shame for him, having to make it back to the pits, and that spin we saw in the hairpin was due to him catching the grass. I think the steering might have been slightly offset as a result of that. Well, Simon Mazzomo is wasting no time chasing down Gavin Cox for the lead of this race. Mazzomo finding himself in a position he might not have expected. It was a very strong drive from him last night to finish in the top 5, but the dramas for other drivers early on have elevated him into the battle for the lead of this race. And Gavin Cox, he's setting 1 minute 36.8 at his fastest. Mazzomo a 36.6, so there's a lot of pace here with the new privateer.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and anyone who knows Simon is he's a fantastic guy, but he will pin you against the wall if you give him the opportunity to make a move, and he's fair, but he's very, very aggressive as well. So if he gets a little bit of a sniff, I think we'll see a move quite early on, but this is going to be a race of tyre management. Yes, we have that pit stop, but you still have to manage your tyres to get there, because this is 21 laps. We've got 4 extra laps than last night, and you need to balance that tyre wear. So you can go aggressive now, but the tail end of the stint's going to fall off, or you can save the tyres, but the guy might pull away before the pit stop. So that balance is going to be really interesting to watch between these two. because they both have the talent. It's just who can look after their tyres, but also maximise their tyres the best.
Exactly right, and it's very difficult to preserve the tyres around here. Pretty much every turn at this circuit is a chicane, which requires an awful lot of load transfer left to right. We see the number 99 of Jordan Goliker in the pit lane here taking his service. He's already carrying some damage to the front bumper, but it doesn't seem to have affected him all that much. Back up to the battle for fourth, meanwhile, Dion de Graaf, who James Anderson credited with help with the setup last night, which allowed Anderson to cruise to victory. Dion going for a run here in the second night of racing and really chasing down Alex John now. Darren Crosby, of course, filtering to the front of this group. He's starting to pull away from Alex John. But for the time being, looks like no move to be made for Dion de Graaf. And they have also got James Anderson right behind them, looking to get going. It seems there's been further problems for Dylan Thomas. Remember, he was in 7th place, or in 6th place rather, as things stand. And it seems something has gone wrong for him. Trying up the inside of the exit was Dion de Graaf on Alex John. They're getting very close now as they come into the first of the chicanes here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Got to be careful of that wall on the outside of the circuit.
Yeah, you definitely do. We saw Cam dance last night, how close he got to it in the Porsches, and I think they're a fair bit easier to drive than these are, with minimal downforce and a bootload of power. But Dion de Graaf is trying to waste no time getting past Alex John, but John isn't making it that easy for him, and James Anderson is, like we said, having a very polarizing night last night. Alex John actually has a massive wiggle out of the chicane, which is going to let de Graaf get by. I think Anderson's going to try and get by on him too. He's got the draft from de Graaf, who goes defensive, and the lead battle's going on as well, side by side down the back straight.
Yeah, just off camera, James Anderson messed up the braking zone for the hairpin. That has resulted in him not getting the move done on Alex John. But Simon Mazzomo here rounding up Gavin Cox, and he's going to try to go up the inside into the final chicane. It's difficult to pull the move off here. Gavin Cox is going to make it too wide. He does not want to give up this lead. He's going to have the inside for turn 1 meanwhile, but Mazzomo has the momentum down the start-finish straight. Does Gavin Cox yield coming into the left-hander? Mazzomo slightly later on the brakes and is going to sweep around the outside, which becomes the inside for turn 2, and that is the 551 to the lead of the race, though Gavin Cox giving him a little bump at the apex, letting him know he's still there. That was very well executed from Simon Mazzomo, and big props to Gavin Cox for giving him room.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the point I was about to make as well. Gavin Cox could have easily sent Mazzomo into the wall of champions as he defended that outside line, but he gave just enough room and not an inch more, and that was brilliant driving from both of those. I think that's one of the best parts about this track, is because there's so many chicanes, if you're on the outside for one part, you have the inside for the other, so the track comes back to you, and it means you can defend those positions around the outside. And we have more cars in the pits now. That's Aaron Gilbert has just come in for his stop, Anthony Green coming in for his stop as well, Nathan Tregarthen coming in for his stop. So we've got about 5 or 6 cars now, 6 or 7 cars who have made their compulsory pit stop. This battle for third, though, is still continuing further back.
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic racing. Darren Crosby losing the position to Dion de Graaf and running a bit wide. That'll allow Alex John up the inside briefly, but with that hairpin, if you can swing it out wide on the exit, you will get a better run. And it seems that Anderson, well, he's carrying some damage to his front end, which is not helping his straight line speed. Remember, Anderson was one of the cars involved in the turn 1 crash.
So Reese passed for the lead again. Gavin Cox has tried to go up the inside of Mazzomo further up. They're side by side again down the main straight. Oh. Simon Mazzomo had a great run, but then of course Gavin Cox getting the draft down the main straight. Gavin Cox tries to replicate Mazzomo's move last lap, but Mazzomo manages to hold him off. Sorry to cut you off, but I saw that unraveling and I couldn't let it go unsaid. And this racing between these two is just absolutely phenomenal.
All good. Definitely battle for the lead is worth interrupting for, because it's been a titanic battle between these two so far. We're not even halfway into this race, so it might be far from over. Cox, though, losing a little bit of pace to Simon Mazzomo in the first half of the lap. Does seem to be the second half where Gavin has the advantage. But drivers now out of the pits. Henry King taking his pit stop from about 8th place, and he's followed out by Cruz Mason, who, thank goodness, has managed to get his damage repaired and is back out on the circuit. Also exiting the pits is Lance Childs. The only car in the pits at the moment is Kobe Marshall, who it seems is spending a lot of time getting his damage repaired. But we go back to the battle for 4th. Darren Crosby lost touch with Dion de Graaf with all of the fighting that's been going on between these three.
Yeah, they are losing an astronomical amount of time, which is very unfortunate for them, but very beneficial for Dion de Graaf. His last lap was a 37.9. These guys and the lead battle in front are doing 39s to 40s because of the battling, so he's gaining a massive amount of time in front and saving behind as we see 2 cars from that battle pack going into the pits. I missed who that was. I think it was Anderson and Thomas and Crosby. Yeah, so 3 cars from that top 6 battle have all gone into the pits to try and get that undercut, which, as we know from previous years running these cars in Scops and the new ones, the undercut is so powerful, especially in a track like this.
Yes, indeed. Well, Daniel Stevens, the first car to pit, will elevate himself up past these guys and into 7th place, but he's going to have a rough time here in the number 3 is Daniel. He had a very rough night last night. Remember, he was the car that Aaron Gilbert made contact with coming into turn 1. So now he's got himself a bit of a hard run once again, trying to make these tyres last to the very end of the race. Riding on board here in the battle, Anthony Green got Jordan Goliker up ahead of him, and not the best run through the chicane there, trying his best to avoid the off tracks in the KRF machine. It's very difficult to get a clean run around this circuit now with those new off-track rules, but seems that he has a good amount of pace with him. See if Jordan Goliker can hold him off.
Yeah, and we saw a glimpse of what Goliger was capable of last night, but unfortunately, again, another driver with the mixed bags. I think that's Simon Mazzoma in the pits now, so he's going to try and undercut an advantage over Gavin Cox. Gavin Cox trying to do the overcut. Dion de Graaf as well coming in. So we only have Gavin Cox, Alex John, Reese Hunnell and Brett O'Keefe left to pit so far. And that's really going to change things up, especially as we have Dan Stevens on screen now, who pitted early, see if he can get the undercut on Simon Mazzomo. It is going to be quite close between them. I think Mazzomo is still going to have the advantage, but that undercut for Stevens so far is gaining him a lot of time over the rest of the pack.
Yeah, he's moved up into 4th now as O'Keefe and Harnell take their pit stops. Gavin Cox and Alex John are now the only cars left to pit. Right on board with last night's winner, James Anderson. And chasing down Dion de Graaf. Dion, it seems, once he had taken his pit stop, losing some time to that battle he was in. But James Anderson, with the undercut, has elevated himself up into the battle for 5th place. Excellent stuff to see. And remember, they've got Daniel Stevens right up ahead of them. Stevens, especially within the next 5 laps, will start struggling on those tyres, and this could eventuate into a titanic battle once again.
Yeah, definitely can, and it's going to be interesting to watch the gap between Gavin Cox and both Simon Mazzomo and Daniel Stevens over the next couple of laps before Cox pits. There was a car going very slowly through the pits. That was Jordan Goliger. Yeah, he's smoking. So hopefully we can get a replay from that, because we're just saying how he showed some promise and he was running well, and I think that's come undone in the middle of the lap.
Yeah, it was coming out of the hairpin, and we saw a car make this error last night, running a bit too far over the curb on the hairpin exit, and it spun up the wheels, sent him straight into the wall. So Goliker has fortunately been able to make it back to the pits. We will not see a safety car, at least not yet, but that's going to be a big blow to Jordan, trying his best to fight for the lower positions, and it's not going to happen for him. Meanwhile, Dion de Graaf now right on the back of Daniel Stevens. Oh, look at how much air the left side of that car takes over those curbs. Here's the replay what happened to Jordan Gallagher. Now, look for the curb here on driver's left coming out of the hairpin. Spins up the rear and gets into a tank slap, a head-on collision with the concrete barrier. Big shame there.
Yeah, that's pretty much a mirror image of what we saw last night. And we see the move for Dion de Graaf on Dan Stevens. Oh, kind of runs him off the road, but I think that was just as much Stevens' fault as it was de Graaf's, if you want to point blame at anyone. But Stevens running out of tyres a little bit compared to those around him, which we thought might be the case. But even if Stevens finishing is where he does, and I say that, and James Anderson has a bit of a lock-up into the hairpin, still a great recovery drive for Stevens. He's gained a lot of time over those behind him. But those new tyres for de Graaf are just working so much better.
That they are, and de Graaf already had the run on Stevens coming down the back stretch, was able to make it side by side, and he did give a good amount of room for Stevens on the exit of the left-hander, but Dan unfortunately locked up in the middle of the corner, and that sent him wide. Well, now they've got the number 2 of Henry King just up behind them. Daniel Stevens will be his next target. King, of course, starting in second place, and he's on a recovery drive himself, now currently up to 7th. James Anderson trying to now to hold off Daniel Stevens, who will be looking to recover well from that mistake. But for the time being, it seems the pace is with those guys who pitted a little later. Stevens is going to have to think about tyre preservation now, and hope that the drivers in front of him will make mistakes.
Yeah, he's only got a tyre advantage over Gavin Cox and Alex John, the 2 cars left to pit. Everyone else has run 2 to 5 laps on their car. Aaron Gilbert the most out of those that pitted with everyone else with 5 laps on his tyres. So that's a big disadvantage to be at in a car that relies so heavily on that grip. But Dan Stevens' teammate Gavin Cox is still leading the way, and I think that was Alex John just peeling into the pits as well behind. So 1 car left to pit, and we have a replay coming up for...
Oh, Lance Childs, we're hearing a post-race investigation for dangerous pit entry. That's new. That's something that we haven't heard about before. Well, we'll see what happened here. Lance Childs, defensive here versus Henry King, and wow, going all the way past the cars on the entry into the pits. So I was thinking about the possibility of pulling a move like that, considering that we have to do a mandatory pit stop in the TCRs as well, but it looks like I won't be going for that maneuver. On board with Childs. Well, he saw the drivers up ahead of him getting onto the brakes, and Childs zooming past the Falcon. Apparently, that is against the rules.
I can definitely understand that. I was going to say from the outboard shot, it doesn't look that dangerous. Like, there's enough space there, and we know what that pit entry is like. I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think that onboard shot really shows that speed difference. If you are just a little bit too far to the left, that's going to ruin someone else's race as well. So very good for race control to pick that one up, because this is the onboard now, I assume, of Dylan Thomas, who's following the racing line. Yeah, that's a bit sketchy. So you could give that away, I guess, for Lance Childs, but I think you got to stamp that out nice and early for the rest of the racing team.
Alex John now out of the pits. He is just behind James Anderson, and I think the move might have been made into the hairpin potentially. John, on the slightly fresher tyres, not trying to waste any time getting by him. Had a look coming into the final chicane, but it seems Anderson is very confident on the brakes. Anderson still holding on to what is now 4th place at the moment. Dion de Graaf has driven really well since he came out of the pits to put a gap over these guys, and now that they're all battling, he'll certainly want them to continue that. It seems that Alex John coming out in between Anderson and Stevens. And Stevens, you can see, is already starting to drop off as his tyres reach the end of their operating life.
Yeah, and I was going to say that James Anderson last night during our post-race interview was talking about how the tyre wear kind of caught him out a little bit, so maybe he's tweaked his setup or his driving style just a little bit. I say that as he goes completely sideways out of that chicane to try and save those tyres, but he's driving very well. But Alex John has a bit of a run, but it comes to him a little bit late going to that chicane. I'm also in the meantime watching that delta split between Gavin Cox and Simon Mizomo has lost 7 seconds in the last 2 or 3 laps, so Mizomo going a lot quicker as we see them move now. Alex John up the inside, James Anderson gives him a butt ton of space, but he's going to get the drive and the draft down the main straight to see if he can come back. And now Gavin Cox is in the pits, so this is all Simon Mizomo's race to win. I think he's going to have about an 8 or 9 second advantage minimum by the time John comes out the pits, if it's not his gap back to Dion de Graaf. But he's been driving an absolutely phenomenal race, and we see James Anderson get that position back through that final chicane. So this is on for that first spot outside of the podium.
Certainly is. Gavin Cox exits the pit lane, and that long first stint has not worked out for him. He's down into third now behind Dion de Graaf. But, of course, Gavin, with fresher tyres, will be able to push very hard here in the final 6 laps of this race. Simon Mizomo leads by 4.8 seconds. Very well executed run from the 555 so far. We'll see if he can hold on to it. But this battle is showing no signs of slowing down. Anderson, John and Stevens all in a line here. Stevens has started to catch back up to them as Anderson and John have been taking it side by side on a few occasions. Let's see what Alex John can do coming into the hairpin. Doesn't look like he's hooked up the run coming out of the chicane. A track like this, you have to rely on the driver in front making a mistake on the exit of those chicanes if you want to have a proper run. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to pass. It seems that Anderson getting the exit he needs, but Alex John will have the draft here down this long back stretch. And we saw them going side by side into here last lap. Let's see if Alex John can do anything here. Anderson dealing with a bit of straight line speed deficit. He goes defensive coming into the chicane, and Alex John will not be able to pull alongside, but he does catch the grass just a little bit. Saves it. Very well done there. But it's not going to translate into a position. If anything, it's brought Daniel Stevens back into the picture.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It doesn't matter if you have a tyre deficit if everyone else is fighting their own battle. And Daniel Stevens wasting no time at showing the nose into turn 1. All of the tyre smoke screaming out in pain from all 3 of those cars going through turn 2. As they head up towards turn 3 now, they have a little bit of breathing space between them. That's only the beat of about half a second, so blink of an eye, anything can change between these guys. But I think that last third of that lap from the 8-9 chicane right through to the final chicane is your best opportunity to pass someone, unless you can hang it around the outside of turn 5 like we saw Cam Dance do last night in the Porsches. But these guys are not giving up yet. Anderson has a bit more of a gap, but he's still out of draft range of Gavin Cox, who's maximising his tyre life to pull away. So 1.1-ish is about draft range for the car behind, so he's in the draft of Dion de Graaf, but James Anderson behind, more importantly, is out of his.
Yeah, it's very important there for James Anderson. He's not going to get any assistance in his battle with Alex John riding on board the Hellman's rear wing of Dion de Graaf. And you see that the gap to Cox behind has increased a little. Cox, I think, making a couple of errors in the last few laps, but we'll see if those fresher tyres come to him towards the end of the race. Amazing how much two-wheeling action we're seeing over these curbs, despite the more restrictive off-track rules that were applied to the Circuit G of Villeneuve some time ago by iRacing. The drivers certainly not in two minds about it. One of the things that you can do as a driver when there is an incident limit is bank your incidents. If you end up saving them, drive a bit more cleanly for the first half of the race, you can start taking a little more curb later on, take those 1Xs and gain that extra little bit of pace. Daniel Stevens looking for a move potentially up the inside of Alex John. I don't think that was an intentional look for a move, but certainly Stevens is pushing very hard to keep up with these guys.
Yeah, he definitely is, and that's just burning away his tyres even more, but he is sticking with these guys because they are fighting and he is in the draft, so he's in the prime position if something goes wrong for either Anderson or John just off the road. And yeah, I had that thought last night as well, and I feel we're going to see very similar during the main SCOPS races tomorrow night, which of course you can catch on SimSpeed TV from lights to flag, well, even start at qualifying to flag at the end, and a lot of drivers will be banking up those incident points. Split 1, obviously running 250 kilometers, has an extra 10 incident points is for their disposal compared to normal, which a lot of drivers were quite thankful for, but even that's not a lot for 250 Ks, but we will see drivers all through the rest of the weekend baking up those points, so when you can go on the attack you can burn through them without risk of penalty.
That you can. Well, it seems that James Anderson still has the pace with him to hold off Alex John, but just up ahead of these guys, De Graaf and Cox have narrowed the gap a little bit, with Gavin Cox running a tenth faster than Dion De Graaf on the last lap. Seems that now the tyres are certainly with the 555. He's still on for second. He'll be a little frustrated that going long in the first half of the race ended up demoting him to third with how strong the undercut is, but he certainly has pace on Dion De Graaf, I would imagine. Remember, De Graaf is a bit fresh here. He didn't race last night. Oh dear. Bit of a lock-up coming into the chicane, but it seems it hasn't hurt all that much.
No, thankfully managing to recover that well. He's right on the back, still 0.6 of a second. Simon Mazzomo in the meantime is lapping about half a second quicker than anyone on track, except for James Anderson last lap in that top 5 or 6. So they are slow. Ooh, is that a Dion De Graaf running a very different line? Threw me off a little bit there for a second. I thought he might have had a slowdown. Yeah, I think that's his only option because Gavin Cox, is right up behind him, 0.3 of a second through the chicane. We have 3 laps to go now, so 2 laps to go even, if I could count properly. Simon Mazzomo is sitting pretty about 6 seconds up the road of these guys, so he's driven pretty flawlessly all race, but this battle for second place is now a 4-car battle all the way back. Alex John and Dan Stevens has completely dropped off the back of these guys and is now under attack from Henry King. But this battle for third is not going to finish until we cross that checkered flag.
Certainly not, and I've just seen the reason why Stevens dropped off. He had the rears lock up coming into the chicane before the hairpin. So unfortunately it seems a missed downshift or something like that for the number 3. He will not factor into that battle for 4th place. Nonetheless, Gavin Cox, he's actually lost a bit of time here to Anderson and John. It looks like more of a 4-way fight for second place now. And with only 2 laps to go, this is when the drivers who've been saving up their tyres will pull out all the stops. Bit of a wider exit for Dion De Graaf, forced Gavin Cox to tighten up the exit a little bit, and that's hurt his run down the back straight.
Yeah, it was a very alternate line, and like we brought up many times last night, that hairpin has multiple lines you can run depending on your car and how much downforce and assists and all of that. Starting to leapfrog over those curbs more and more as this race goes on, and some of it comes back to you, and most people would think that De Graaf would have been under a lot of pressure into that chicane, but thankfully because he took that wide line he can open the steering up more, and of course he caught Gavin Cox out by having to tighten his steering, so it helps defend him from that draft down the main straight. But James Anderson is having a bit of a mare of a time with Alex John behind him still. These guys have not stopped. They're breaking falling behind this pack just a little bit as James Anderson's tyres are starting to scream for help. He has the most worn tyres out of anyone in this battle pack, so 4 laps difference between himself and Alex John behind, so he's in a lot of trouble, but I think he should be fine with about 6 corners left to go. Brett O'Keefe has been given a drive-through though.
Yeah, and it's an automatic drive-through because he has reached the incident limit. As Alex John, he's had a bit of an issue there coming out of the chicane. Not too sure what happened to him there. It looks like he just locked up and went straight on. But up the front, it's still on between Henry King now and Daniel Stevens, who's caught right up to him. Great exit from Henry King. He's going to get the position there under acceleration out of the hairpin, but will flick towards the front because Simon Mazzomo negotiating the final 2 turns. A brilliant drive from the new privateer. Executed the strategy perfectly, and he will take the 2nd race win of V8s for 2022. Brilliant drive from Simon Mazzomo. Dion de Graaf is going to hold on for 2nd, and Gavin Cox will finish in 3rd. Cox was not able to make his way past, and it looks like Stevens just beat King to the line.
Yeah, I wanted to flick back, but I just missed it. I don't know what happened. Hopefully we can get a replay of it. But that was a fantastic recovery down that straight. Of course, he would have had the drive as well. Brett O'Keefe, we see serving his drive-through penalty now, but that was a flawless drive by Simon Mazzomo. Dion de Graaf as well, up 18 spots. He was our biggest mover, so a fantastic run by both of those guys. And Simon Mazzomo, who's been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work for V8SCOPS and has started driving the supercar again, is going to be absolutely thrilled with that one.
That he will. We're going to watch the whole last lap here between Daniel Stevens and Henry King because they were battling super hard. King trying to line up Stevens into turn 1. It didn't end up working. Let's see what happens to Stevens here in the very tight and twisty first sector of the lap. Remember, Stevens' tyres were struggling for mercy here, and King was right on him the whole time.
Yeah, it was an awesome last lap, and this is what we love about this track, is you can go at all different corners and the track will come to you and then go away from you, so you can make moves at all of the chicanes or lose moves at all of the chicanes, and we'll see the move come up shortly. It was side by side through the hairpin. We caught the tail end of that, so that's just coming out of the chicane here. Henry King actually locks the brakes going in, but gets a really good exit in that second half. Gets alongside really early on Dan Stevens coming down towards the chicane, hangs it around the outside, and of course that means he can open the steering up a bit early. Gets a fantastic drive, wins the drag race. Little bit of a how you going down on the way down, but then Stevens gets this massive draft down the back straight to catch back up again.
Yeah, shows you how strong the slipstream is here at Montreal. Pulls out into the final corner. A last gasp move here for Daniel Stevens, and he gets ahead of Henry King into the corner. And there's just not enough time up to the start-finish line for Henry King to get him back. But it was barely a car length between them at the very end. Fantastic racing to start off the second night here. Simon Mazzomo wins by 4.2 seconds from Dion de Graaf with a masterful drive through the field. Gavin Cox will complete the top 3. James Anderson and Alex John round out your top 5. It's Daniel Stevens who beats Henry King by less than a tenth to the line. Darren Crosby holds on for 8th. Dylan Thomas finishes 9th. And Lance Childs, well, he will finish 10th, but he still has that race control investigation over him for that dangerous pit entry.
Yeah, it was a very interesting pit entry indeed. So we'll see what comes with that. Reese Harnell finishing in 11th. Aaron Gilbert definitely not the weekend or the night that he wanted, finishing in 12th. Anthony Green and Brett O'Keefe finishing in 13th and 14th, with Nathan Tregarth in the last car on the lead lap. Craig Mason and Cruz Mason having a very topsy-turvy night again. Kobe Marshall unfortunately out early, as well as Jordan Gallagher, who unfortunately was out after that monster crash into the wall, and then Stephen Warwick didn't end up starting the race.
Yes, well, we'll surely see Stephen go for a couple of starts further on in the season. But we'll step aside very briefly here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022. We've got 2 more races coming up, the first being the Flat Sixes. You're watching the 2022 V8SCOPS Support Series here on SimSpeed TV, presented by Logitech G. I'm Reese Gardner, and it's Brad Wingard in the comms box with me. We are joined by the winner of the V8 race, Simon Mazzomo. Simon, big congratulations for that. Your first win since becoming a privateer once more, and it seems that that drama up the front certainly helped you, but really it was the execution of the strategy that paid off for you.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a Bradbury moment on that start there. Just somehow managed to get through it all without sort of incurring any damage. And yeah, just sort of strategy was to sort of stay with Gavin. I didn't think I had the pace to get in front of him, but the idea was just stay with him as long as I possibly could. Once we got in front, big shout out to Taylor for being my spotter in that one. Basically, yeah, we sort of said, let's pit early, let's get in clean air and see where we go. And that was it. Pretty much the race was won right there and then with just that strategy call.
Yeah, it was certainly the undercut being very powerful here today, but when you and Gavin Cox are on track together, crucially, the racing was nice and clean. You guys were giving each other plenty of room, which is exactly what we want to see. Yeah,
with any of the MFR drivers, generally, we have a lot of respect for those guys. They're amazing drivers and they always give room. So if there's ever been contact, it's always been accidental. So yeah, to do that side by side for those few laps, yeah, I was more than confident in Gavin. I knew he wasn't going to do anything silly. So yeah, and that's the best thing. It's just that mutual respect, and you can race that hard with each other and know that no one's going to come off second best.
Exactly right. Well, we say congratulations once again for your victory. Is there anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go, Simon?
Big shout out to Taylor for being my spotter in that one. That was awesome. Big shout out also to Daniel Stevens from MFR. He gave me a few tips earlier in the week, and they've definitely paid a massive dividend. So still a lot of work I've got to do on the car, but yeah, we're stepping in the right direction. So thanks for that. And yeah, thanks for you guys. Thanks OSR for putting on the support series again this season. And it's already starting out to be an amazing one already.
Indeed it is. That's Simon Mazzomo there taking a dominant victory in the V8s category. But now we shall move on to the next of our races here, the flat sixes. You saw Simon driving around as we were talking to him. He's going to be racing in this as well, already getting those final few minutes of practice in. And I'm looking forward to this one, Brad, because last night's racing, it was pretty much a photo finish for the lead.
Yeah, it absolutely was. There was, I think, 8/100ths of a second or 4/100ths of a second between Blake and Cam Dance at the line. And we have an extra 10 minutes of racing, again, an extra pit stop, which we didn't have last night. And I was speaking to Cam about 40 seconds ago, and he says that the tyres aren't going to drop off massively, but new tyres will have a bit of an advantage. So again, maybe not quite as extreme as the V8s that we just saw, but pit stops are going to play their part in this race, and I'm very excited to see how that shakes out again.
As am I. Let's take another look at the track we're racing at tonight, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal, in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. Fantastic track this is, been around since the late 1970s and most famous as the host of the Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. Once again, with that mandatory pit stop, we will be expecting drivers will have to negotiate a few extra cars on their way to go into the pits. Once again, you start braking for the pit lane when you're pretty much at the apex of the final turn. So keep an eye out for that. And certainly after the post-race investigation handed down to Lance Childs, the drivers here in the flat sixes are going to be very careful not to repeat that.
Yeah, they definitely will. I don't think anything has come of that. I haven't seen any messages come through. I think it was more just calm down, guys. We're not going to necessarily penalize you, but if you mess it up, we are going to come down hard. So it's definitely scared the drivers into double, guessing themselves on that. So hopefully that'll deter any incidents, but we see it happen in the real world where a car will slingshot through to the pit lane while someone's on the racing line. So I don't know if we'll see it again, but I think that race control decision is going to scare people a little bit to not do it again.
Yeah, I would be in agreement with you there. Well, now we start gearing up for this second race of the weekend for the Porsche 992 Cup cars. Only a minute left now in the practice session, and once again the grid is set by the results from last night. So we'll go through the grid when we tick over into the next session, but last little preparations being made here for the drivers. They're going to be dealing with a standing start once again, and the track is still pretty cool. We're racing in morning conditions as we did last night, and things have cleared up a little bit in the flat sixes. It was a bit foggy at the start last time out last night, but now it is nice and clear. Clear blue skies. The track is 21 degrees Celsius, which is pretty cool. Certainly means that the drivers are going to have to be careful. The tyres will be a bit skatey coming into the first couple of corners, but once they do get up to temperature, they will be very grippy indeed. There we are. The practice session is over, and we will go through our grid for race 2 of the flat sixes here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Last couple of seconds over before the grid is properly set. And we shall go through it now. Cameron Dance, the one who won last night, he's going to start alongside Blake Neck at the front of the field. Thomas Hinz and Simon Mazzomo, 3rd and 4th. Mazzomo already has one win under his belt tonight. He'll be looking for another. Ryan Houlihan and Daniel Cheney line up 5th and 6th. It's going to be Brett Hender starting out of 7th for Fusion Sim Racing, with Benjamin Faulkner for Race on Oz alongside him. Top 10 rounded out by Luke Swan and John Courtney. Swan had a very tough night last night. He'll be hoping that things are a little better, and he'll get going from that. Brady Baldwin and Isaac Edwards round out the top 12.
Liam Hall starting in 13th alongside Alex John, who's probably hoping for a bit more luck than he had last race and last night. In 14th, Mark Noble and Pete Minott had a very unfortunate night as well last night. Cruz Mason and Shane Best starting in 17th and 18th. Matty Jones finish in 19th last night. That's where we start. Robbie Rubbery, Alex Green, and Anthony Green rounds out our grid, and we're about ready to go.
The revs rise and we are away. Oh no, Thomas Hinz still on the grid. Oh dear, this is going to be dramatic. Oh, bit of contact there, but it seems the majority of drivers have escaped with very little penalty. Thomas Hinz, I think, forgetting to start the car up. Ignition and starter are manual in these servers. We've got a car off in turn 1. That's Benjamin Faulkner, who's come a cropper somehow. That is very dramatic there from the middle of the field. Thomas Hinz has fallen all the way down to 14th place after starting in 3rd. So his night is off to a very rough start. He'll be hoping for a safety car at some point to get him back in contact with the field. But Blake Neck has taken the lead from Cameron Dance. And it looks like we might be seeing a repeat of last night if how these guys battled was anything to go by.
Yeah, well, last night Blake Neck was on pole and Cam led out of turn 2. Now roles have reversed. Ben Faulkner's incident into turn 1 was all on his own. He just locked up and sent the real round. Cam Dance is already side by side. We've got the 65 of John Courtney off at turn 7 as well. I'm not sure
yes.
what. Oh, that was big contact there with Benjamin Faulkner again, I think.
No, Pete Minute, he lost it under brakes coming into the chicane. We'll get a replay when we can until the first lap is complete. Cameron Dance shadowing Blake Neck now. This is going to be another fantastic battle for the lead. These guys seem to be head and shoulders above the rest of the field in terms of pace, but Cam Dance has gone a little deep there into the final chicane, losing some crucial ground to Blake Neck. That's going to allow Simon Mazzomo and Ryan Houlihan to catch up back to this battle. But it seems things have settled down there. We'll take another look here at what went on the first lap, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. Seeing the 042 of Benjamin Faulkner going for a spin by himself coming into turn 1. Fortunately, no one else involved in that one. But the incident that I'm interested to see is the one that Pete Minute had coming here into the chicane, loses the rear, and then this is a massive hit here. That's a big shame there for John Courtney. There was nothing he could do about that.
Sorry to make a bit of a undeclared announcement. Simon Mazzomo has just looped it coming out of the chicane. No. This is the replay of that now.
Blake Neck is falling down the order.
Oh my god, everything's gone off. Simon Mazzomo just running wide onto the AstroTurf. Luckily, he didn't hit anyone, and he's back running again now, but he's right down in 17th. Blake Neck, I don't know what's happened to him either, but everything is...
Oh no. Yeah, we'll see it here. Blake Neck coming out of the chicane just got, oh dear, tapped around by Cameron Dance. There was a little bit of a tank slapper moment for Blake Neck, and Dance tried to get up the inside. Poor Blake Neck having to let the majority of the field by on exit. Well, it seems that a win is out of his hands for now. But Cam, it seems, is redressing the move. He's going slow down the back stretch, and that's going to promote... Well, it's promoted Ryan Houlihan into the lead, but Dance will be falling down the field here. Dance is nothing if not a fair racer. He'll try his best, as Mazzomo tries his best to, goodness me, get past Pete Minute, who's already had some dramas in this race so far. Goodness me, it's all going off here in the early stages. It is on for 9th, meanwhile. Matty Jones and Isaac Edwards side by side into turn 1. And it looks like Matty Jones is going to get that move done there on Isaac. He's got Thomas Hinz to worry about just up ahead of him. But Simon Mazzomo, unfortunate for him, looping it by himself. And now will have to try and fight his way back through the field. Blake Neck has elected to take his mandatory pit stop early, and that makes sense. If you have an incident out on track, you might as well just take the L and go into the pits. So Blake Neck will get his pit stop out of the way. Considering what we've heard from the drivers about how the tyres last here, it's not going to hurt him too much.
Yeah, they might take a couple of laps to come up to temperature, but he is going to have some clean air. So he did lose a bunch of time through that incident, which I honestly don't think that was Cam's fault. He was there or thereabouts, and then Blake's tank slapper unfortunately caught Cam unaware, and there was unfortunate contact. But like you said, Cam, ever the gentleman, let that position swap back, even if it cost him massively. So it's going to be interesting to see what Blake Neck can do. We've had more contact down at the hairpin as well. That was Cruz Mason, I think. Yeah, Cruz Mason and someone else.
It's Benjamin Faulkner and Robbie Bradbury, I think, who have come together there. Cruz
It was
Mason
too,
already
yes.
getting going.
Yeah, this is when you think the race has settled down. We've had the top three just drop down the order, and now we've got the mid pack has imploded on itself as well. Ryan Houlihan, in the meantime, has a 3.5 second lead over Brett Hender for second, and we're only at the end of, start of lap 4.
Mark Noble, Benjamin Faulkner and Robbie Bradbury going into the lane. No surprise to see Faulkner and Bradbury there. We'll take a look at the incident coming into the hairpin. Oh dear, just catching the grass on the inside. And from then on, he was a passenger. Of course, I'm wondering if that's borderline racing incident. I'm not too sure. But either way, these guys will certainly be enjoying all the dramas that's going on. Brett Hender now up into second. That's going to be a great run here for the Fusion Sim Racing team. But he is getting pressured massively by Daniel Cheney and Luke Swan. They're going to have to keep an eye out behind, because you can see Alex John just behind them as well. And Alex John now with a very eventful race in the V8s, looking to make it more of the same here in the flat sixes.
Yeah, Luke Swan, we saw yesterday, had great pace in these cars, but unfortunate run of luck like a lot of drivers have had this weekend. So he's trying to make his way back up. He's gained 5 spots so far, which is a tremendous start to the race. Of course, we've had people tripping over themselves left, right and center, which has helped him out a bit. But Matty Jones, who we have on screen right now, he's our biggest mover, up 13 spots in 5 laps, or 4 laps. So absolutely tremendous drive by Matty Jones. Cam Dance is coming for his pit stop. It'll be interesting to see where Blake Neck is. He's coming round the kink on the back straight now. Simon Mizomo just behind him as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where Cam Dance ends up. But I think the gap might just be big enough. Cam's in his box now, so this is going to be really close between these two.
Looks like pit stops have been running around the 14 to 16 second bracket, so I think Blake Neck might be able to make his way past Dance, who's only just getting going now out of his pit box, or it's going to be tight between the two of them. Neck at the apex of turn 1. Dance is going to come out just ahead of him, and oh dear, big slide for Cam Dance coming out of pit lane. Neck is going to get the run here and squeeze up the inside coming into the first chicane. Not the first time these guys have been on the same piece of racetrack this weekend, but Blake Neck is going to get that position. Now they will resume their fight. Oh no. What has gone on here for Isaac Edwards? That's the turn coming onto the back straight, and I get the feeling he might have looped it. Let's see if there was any contact involved. Edwards was all on his own when it happened, just caught the curb, and then the rear end got unsettled and around he went. Fortunately, not many people around him, so he was able to get back going without much incident. But Isaac has now fallen down the order, down into 11th place, as Cruz Mason, it seems, has had a couple of small issues out on track. He's dropped down to 15th place. But we check out the number 55 of Luke Swan, trying to chase down Daniel Cheney here. Got Alex John up behind them, and Matty Jones a further 3 seconds behind or thereabouts. Hearing that there is a black flag that's been given to Robbie Bradbury, and that would have been for the incident at the hairpin that we saw. Bradbury attempted the move up the inside but caught the grass and ended up spinning out. Benjamin Faulkner. Pete Minute now taking his regular pit stop, but we've moved back to the battle for second, and this is going to be quite spicy, especially considering here Brett Hender is probably going to have to hold off 3 cars over the course of this race, and these guys have yet to pit.
Yeah, highest pitted car is Blake Neck in 11th with Cam Dance, like we saw right up his rear bumper. So that's 10 cars that haven't pitted yet, which is going to spice things up later on. And Luke Swan is having the turn of results that he wanted last night, but was unfortunately ripped out of his hands at the death of it, running in 3rd at the moment. And this race isn't really turning into a race of who's the fastest. It's who's the last one to have an incident, because anyone inside the top 10 who hasn't had an incident, anyone inside the top 10 who has an incident is Thomas Hinz at the start and Isaac Edwards. Everyone else is been fine, but anyone outside the turn 10 has had their fair share of incidents, and I guess that just shows that consistency is key, but Luke Swan is trying to make that the pace is key still as he takes Brett Hender through turns 3 and 4, around turn 5 now.
Brilliant circuit here, no elevation change, but the arrangement of the corners means it's a wonderfully flowing circuit. Hender running a bit wide in the first part of the chicane, compromising his entire run through the corner. This might give a chance to Luke Swan up the inside into the next chicane, but it seems that Hender has managed to hook up the straight line speed well enough to keep him behind. Either way, that has really tightened up the battle for second at the moment. Cheney and Faulkner. Well, actually, Benjamin Faulkner down in 19th position. He's not racing these guys for position. Hender's going to go defensive here versus Luke Swan, who dives around the outside of the hairpin. He'll try and get the run here, but a bit of understeer for Hender in the middle of the hairpin results in contact, and Luke Swan will have to stay behind for at least a few more corners, and he'll have to worry about Daniel Cheney now as well, who's really starting to round him up here in the draft.
Yeah, I can see the voice going off between Brett Hender and Luke Swan in game. I didn't quite catch what they said, but I'm sure Luke Swan probably has some choice words that he didn't quite convey over radio for Brett Hender with that. But I mean, a little bit of bumping and rubbing is fair in racing. Luke Swan didn't lose a great deal of time to either Brett Hender or Daniel Cheney behind. So this battle continues, and it's slowly... No, I was nearly made the same mistake that you did. It's nearly a battle for 5 of them, but I also realized that Ben Faulkner is a lap down. So still a 4-way battle for third, and side by side into the chicane. I think there was a lap car.
No, Isaac Edwards for position, just letting Blake Nick and Cameron Dance go, I think, due to the pace difference.
Yes, that would make sense. As we were, Luke Swan attacking Brett Hender again into this 7-8 chicane.
It's an awesome run here that these guys are having, but they are losing time to Ryan Houlihan out front. He's just gaining time on them corner after corner, and it seems that Luke Swan has the power down sorted out, and Hender going to go defensive into the hairpin once again. Take 2, anyone? Let's see how difficult Hender makes it this time. Well, looks like over-under for Luke Swan. But no, side-by-side contact again. Luke Swan is not going to be very happy with Brett Hender for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. That was last lap. I could give him some wiggle room. That, I think, is a little bit unacceptable, and Luke Swan again going to have some choice words for Brett Hender there. I don't think that sort of bumping and rubbing is on now, and Hender's made his own mistake. Luke Swan and about 6 other cars are going to benefit from this. That's a massive slowdown coming through the chicane, so it makes you wonder, was all of that really worth it in the end? He could have let Luke Swan go or even fight that position a bit harder, but ended up tripping over himself anyway. But if he gets that slowdown cleared, he's still on the back of this train, and we've seen what happened in the first 3.5 laps of this race, so he is not out of it by any stretch, but it made Luke Swan's job just a little bit easier to start this lap.
Indeed, and yeah, I think Hender was trying to concentrate on running his own line and didn't quite know where Luke Swan was going to go. Full disclosure, I am teammates with Brett Hender, so make of that what you will, but I try to be as unbiased as possible. Either way, this is the run through the chicane on replay for them. Hender locks up coming into the final chicane, and that is a slam dunk slowdown for the number 10.
Yeah, there's not really anything you can argue when the game that you're racing gives you a penalty. If it's race control who do it themselves, then you can maybe bark up a little bit if you feel like it was a bit unfair. But if iRacing says it's a penalty, then it's a penalty. There's no arguing that. Matty Jones at the tail of this pack has caught these guys at an absolute rate of knots, is drafting the back of Alex. No, he's on the back of Brett Hender now. So that was a big loss for Hender, and Matty Jones is a very fast racer, so we'll see what he can make of this. and see how quickly he can get through this pack, because I think it's only a matter of time, and that's excluding any pit stop advantage he might get.
Well, Hender's going to go defensive there versus Matty Jones, try and make the job difficult for him, keep him behind. And Matty's going to have to wait another couple of corners to try and make the move on the number 10. Very hard to pass coming into this section of racetrack as well, due to just how flowing it is and how close the walls are. So Matty needs to bide his time here. He's made up a great many positions thanks to other drivers pitting and other drivers having mistakes. As Anthony Green brings it into the lane. We saw him racing in the V8s just before. Now he's in the Porsches, and he's in contention for potentially top 15 at this stage. Seems that Matty Jones has gotten the run he needed on Hender, but Hender coming back at him into the braking zone for the next chicane. No, he decides to just dip out and yield to Matty Jones. Now for Brett Hender, it is just a case of preserving those tyres until such a time as he decides to take his pit stop. We still have the top 8 cars, plus Simon Mazzomo, Isaac Edwards and Shane Best yet to come into the pits.
Yeah, I was surprised that Brett Hender pulled out of that, because he was more than entitled to that inside line, and I guess maybe he was thinking of, maybe this isn't my race, and if I can, you know, just let Matty Jones go, follow him through the pack, and even maybe take that early pit stop to try and gain some time back on the pack in front. But I was quite surprised to see him yield so easily after his battle with Luke Swan, but they are all still racing for that track position come the end of pit stops, so you can see both sides of the argument, I guess. But he's still in contention, he's still in this pack, and that's the most important thing.
Exactly right. And remember, if there's a safety car, they might well be in trouble. Oh, speak of the devil, problems for Shane Best, but he will manage to get it going again. Looks like a spin coming through the chicane before the hairpin. That would be turns 8 and 9, I believe. So Shane manages to get it going. He exited in quite dramatic fashion last night, going for a spin into the final chicane and then getting T-boned into oblivion. Seems he's having a slightly better run of it this time round, still running in second place. Isaac Edwards and Liam Hall into the pits. Liam has completed his stop. Isaac still at a standstill. There goes the number 49, Liam Hall. Isaac Edwards not carrying any damage. He's just been trying to stay out of the way and run his own race, and it seems to have been working out all right for him, despite a couple of spins.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, as much drama as we've had tonight, that was... Oh, was that Brett Hender going into the pits? No, that wasn't Brett Hender at all. Someone going
John Courtney seems...
yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if he was trying to go for the pits or not, because looks very odd from my perspective. It seems he was going for the pit lane, but then he decides to turn right and go through the runoff area into the final chicane. So not too sure what happened to John Courtney there. He has had a bit of a rough night so far, so maybe just hedging his bets. Either way, Cameron Dance and Blake Neck battling on track. We're no strangers to this, but this time it's for 8th place and not the lead. Remember, all of the cars in front of them still have yet to pit, but with the amount of time that they've lost over the first couple of laps, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back into the top 3, maybe even the top 5 at this rate. We'll have to wait and see.
They have to be very careful coming around here. There is a Cruz Mason. I heard the tyres squealing as we looked at the battle for that between Blake Neck and Cam Dance. I heard the tyres squeal up ahead, so I went to have a look, and there was a car facing the inside wall, which was not expected by many people at all, given your guys' reaction to that. But it will be interesting to see how Dance and Neck can go, because they are about nearly a second quicker than the lead car of Ryan Houlihan and that battle pack just behind him. So they're about a 10-second deficit, or even a 6 or 7 second deficit to cover or to catch through the pit cycle. And so with 10 laps to go, this could be on for these guys. They might not be out of it yet. If they can keep just working together, running their lap times and catching that pack, I think they can be there at the end once pit stops resolve themselves. It's going to be really interesting to watch.
That it will, and we saw the lap time comparison up on the screen earlier. Cameron Dance ran 0.2 faster than Blake Neck on the last lap, so the pace seems to be with the Fitstyle Motorsports driver, but he has dropped off a little in the second half of the lap here, making a couple of small errors. So just giving Blake Neck the space. Goodness me, they run so close to the tyre wall there. Very difficult to get that right. It seems for the time being they're just content to continue lapping as they are. Looks like Matty Jones made his way past Alex John recently as well and is starting to pull away from him. Really, the closest battle on track at the moment is this one between Blake Neck and Cameron Dance. We have 9 laps to go here, and it remains to be seen where these guys are going to end up. There's 2 cars behind them that haven't pitted yet, Simon Mazzomo and Shane Best. Mazzomo is in 10th, Best is in 16th.
Yes, Shane Best came in on lap 1, I believe, but of course that doesn't count. Oh, Blake Neck and Cam Dance very close to that wall on corner exit, but of course that pit window is lap 2 to 18, so we're on lap 13 now. So these guys have the overtake. Oh, the Matty Jones overtake is on screen now thanks to Virtual Racing School coming into turn 8-9. Pulls out relatively early, and I think that, yeah, that's a very well executed move and very good space left by Alex John to allow Matty Jones through, who's just past John Courtney, who was a lap down, and Brett Hender now into the pits for his stop. He'll drop down to about 10th or 11th position between Simon Mazzomo and Mark Noble at a guess.
And it's on between Daniel Cheney and Matty Jones now. These guys have been trying to negotiate lapped cars. Well, if anything, the lapped cars have been negotiating them. Benjamin Faulkner, who's currently in 18th, went by Daniel Cheney at the final chicane at the end of the last lap. And that has brought Matty Jones well into contention for this position. This is going to be interesting for sure. Daniel Cheney certainly with a bit of a pace disadvantage here at the moment. Matty Jones has been on an absolute roll in terms of race pace here. He's kept the car clean, he's kept the pace good, and he's kept those tyres where they need to be. But remember, they still have to come in for their pit stop. We've had more and more drivers go for it. It seems these guys are deciding to go long. Pit entry is coming up very shortly, just after this little fade to the right. Do any of them take it?
It's going to be interesting to see. They have 6 laps until that window closes. No takers from that pack. Thomas Hinz as well coming up to pit entry now. Has gone for the lane, so he is the highest car to pit from 6th position. Blake Neck and Cam Dance will pass him easily as they come down towards the braking zone for that final chicane now. So they will...
It's going to be quite close for the lead for these guys, judging by the lap times that they're running. Quite interesting race we're coming into here, as we only have 7 to go. Meanwhile, we see Thomas Hinz taking his stop. Brett Hender rejoined in 9th place, and there he is at the moment. Thomas Hinz only just getting going from his pit box now, and it seems that Hender will get the position over him once again. Of course, Thomas Hinz having a very rough start to the night, not going off the grid when the green flag fell, but still managing to keep himself in the top 10, which is good to see. Those will be crucial championship points that may pay off further on in the season. Matty Jones, meanwhile, still struggling to find a way past Daniel Cheney.
Yeah, I'm watching that split between Blake Neck and Ryan Houlihan. Down to 35 seconds at the end of last lap. These guys are lapping at least 0.7 of a second quicker than Ryan Houlihan in first position. And most of the pit stops that I've seen are around that 36 to 40 second mark. So these guys are still on with a really good chance of taking that lead. And as I say that, both Ryan Houlihan and Luke Swan are in. Matty Jones has stayed out with Alex John. So now, yeah, Cheney in as well. So now we have to watch where these guys come out. This is going to be really close as they come through the final chicane now. They got about 15 seconds to get to turn 1. At a guess,
Houlihan's away.
This is going to be exceptionally close.
Wow, Blake Neck and Cameron Dance are still in contention for victory here. This is fantastic stuff. Shows how much pace they have over the rest of the field. They exit behind Ryan Houlihan, but they are advancing.
Most importantly, they have warm tyres. Those tyres are ice cold coming out of the pits. Look at the gap they've reined in already. It's down to 0.6 of a second. It was 1.3 when Houlihan was on the racing line. He has absolutely no grip. This is on for the lead between Blake Neck and Cam Dance. We thought that they were out. Blake Neck facing the wrong way, Cam Dance redressing. This is the fight for the lead, and they have been unrelenting since their pit stops.
Brilliant stuff there. Blake Neck going for the move on Ryan Houlihan, but Houlihan definitely had the advantage in the braking zone. Neck loses a little bit of time to Cameron Dance just behind him, and maybe Dance thinks he has a run here at the hairpin. They won't want to fight with each other too much because they'll end up losing time to Houlihan, who locks up coming into the hairpin. He goes wide. Blake Neck is going to be level with him on exit, but Houlihan getting a great run round the outside and will keep them behind. But for how long? Coming up to the braking zone for the final chicane. The draft, we know, is very strong here at Montreal, but I don't know if Blake Neck is brave enough to go for the move here coming into the final chicane. Not as of yet. The top 3 effective here in this race, making their way through. Matty Jones and Alex John, the top 2 have not pitted. Blake Neck might go for the move here at turn 1. Is it going to happen? He's on the brakes a little later, but he pulls out just a little. Ryan Houlihan, he's off at turn 1. Little bit of a lock up there. He's going to have a big slowdown, but that's going to promote Cameron Dance into the lead as Blake Neck had to give way to him coming into turn 2. So Cameron Dance now in the race effective lead.
I was going to say they don't have to work together anymore. They caught the lead pack. Cam knew that once Houlihan had pitted and he was on the attack straight away. Blake Neck tries to copy the move that Cam Dance put on him for the win yesterday, but 5 laps to go. These guys absolutely putting on a show once again. Battle for 3rd position is still semi-underway. Matty Jones coming out of their hairpin now with Ryan Houlihan just behind this lead for the battle for the lead, and I think Luke Swan's actually passed him, so that battle between those guys once Matty Jones pits is going to be really interesting in a couple of laps. But this battle for the effective lead with Blake Neck and Cam Dance, 5 laps to go, is going to be absolutely thrilling if it's anything like yesterday, and I feel like it's going to be just as good, if not better.
Indeed. Don't forget, Cameron Dance has a slight tyre life advantage as Alex John brings it into the pit lane from 2nd. Cameron on the slightly fresher tyres versus Blake Neck by 2 laps. So you'd think if the advantage is with any driver, it is with Cam Dance, but we know how hard of a racer Blake Neck is, and we know that he loves to take advantage of the draft down the start-finish stretch. Well, Dance and Neck are going to filter through into 2nd and 3rd here as Alex John's pit stop is complete. He's going to lose positions to Ryan Houlihan, Daniel Cheney. Looks like Thomas Hinz is a bit too far behind for it to mean anything for him, so Alex John will rejoin in 7th.
Matty Jones currently in the lead. He's up 18 positions. I think he might drop 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 spots, so he'll still be up a fair chunk of positions. He's driven really well today. I think he'd be on for a podium if he pitted a little bit earlier rather than trying to fight his way through that pack. Blake Neck and Cam Dance, they sit at 0.4 of a second now going into turn 8 and turn 9. That's going to help Blake Neck out down that main straight. We've said it before, we'll say it again, about how important that draft is. Neck using all of that curb on exit, just rubbing some paint into the wall of his tri-star racing Porsche. Oh, he blocks up into the hairpin. Take evading action. That's going to bring Luke Swan into this as well. I don't think Swan's going to have the run, but that's giving Cam Dance massive breathing room.
That certainly has. Goodness. We're going to get a replay, meanwhile, of Matty Jones's pit entry. He is now in the pits as things stand, but apparently his pit entry was something worth taking a look at. Let's see here, coming into the braking zone. Tyre bundle on the left-hand side. Oh! Big lock-up in the rear there for Matty Jones. He was pushing hard. Maybe he might be in trouble of getting a speeding in pits penalty if he entered a little too hot. Either way, his pit stop is complete, and it seems that he has not been given a black flag, so he is safe. But Matty Jones will rejoin in 6th. Still a brilliant position gain for him. You see it there, started in 19th and up into 6th. A 13th-place gain for Matty Jones. But now it is Cameron Dance's race to lose. He's out in front by 2 seconds over Blake Neck after the mistake that Neck made coming into the hairpin. And Luke Swan starting to drop off from the back of him. Now another replay thanks to Virtual Racing School. Let's see what happened to Neck coming into the hairpin. Brakes and seems just suffers a little lock-up coming into the braking zone. Actually almost taking the line through the old hairpin. It went on a little bit further in the previous configuration of this track. We'll check out lap times here when they cross the line next and see if there's anything left for Blake Neck to try and chase down Cameron Dance in the final 3 laps. I think unless there's a mistake for Cameron Dance, he has pretty much got this sorted.
I think, sorry, no, you go.
I was going to say, unless you were making the same point, we're hearing that Cruz Mason is very close to getting a drive-through penalty for the incident limit.
I think the only solace in that for Cruz Mason is that he's not the first driver to get a penalty for exceeding track limits, and he's just gone off the track. So that'll be number 20 for Cruz Mason. That was cutting the turn 8 and 9 chicane, just went a little bit hot, so he's now got his drive-through penalty flag displayed for him. I was going to say that I think the biggest drama potentially for Cam Dance is going to be John Courtney. He's 1.8 seconds up the road from him now. I think John Courtney is going to be a bit wiser than to race a car that's going, like, I don't know, 3 seconds a lap quicker with 2 laps to go. So hopefully this is no drama for Cam Dance, but I think he might get a nice toe down the back straight, just as a little cherry on top. But other than that, this is definitely Cam's race to lose at this point with 1 lap and 2 corners to go.
And Blake Neck is just a smidge faster than Cameron Dance, but unfortunately not by enough to really make an impression on the race lead again. Well, it seems that John Courtney has let Cameron Dance by without any issue. He won't have to let Blake Neck by just yet. We'll probably end up seeing it into turn 3 or something like that, the pass being made there for Blake Neck to get by this lapped car. But white flag here for TechSense Fitstyle Motorsports Cameron Dance on for the double victory in flat 6s at the first weekend of V8 SCOPS for 2022. We've got a full program this weekend. Don't forget, we still have the 2-litre Tourers coming up, and then V8 SCOPS itself on Sunday evening. We'll have Split 2 action followed by Split 1. Great weekend here on SimSpeed TV, but finally our focus will draw to Cameron Dance, who's continuing to drive very cleanly here. It was good to show, good to see the sportsmanship that he showed towards Blake Neck after turning him around. And amazing to see that these guys, despite all of the time they lost, were still able to work their way back into the top 2 positions. An absolutely brilliant drive from the number 6 and the number 42.
Yeah, it has been brilliant driving by both of them. They've had their fair share of incidents and definitely kept us on our toes. And I don't think really anyone thought they'd be there at the end, but it just shows how good these guys are when they get down to business. They work together while they had to work together, and then it was gloves off for the final few laps. Cam Dance approaches the final chicane now. Probably take that one a little bit easy. Try not to hop any curbs, get any slowdowns. He does just that. misses the wall by a half a car width. And absolutely stellar recovery for both of those drivers, and Luke Swan finishing third. Deserves that result more than Cam Dance locks up into turn one in celebration. But very good drive by Luke Swan, turned around his luck. That was very up and down last night. That was a brilliant race.
Indeed. Well, we saw these guys together early in the race, and it resulted in a black flag for Robbie Bradbury. Benjamin Faulkner's going to try and find his way past him here as these guys are continuing to race for 14th place on the final lap. What can Faulkner do coming into the hairpin? Is he going to go for a dive? Bradbury defensive on the way in. Faulkner tries to draw alongside him, over under potentially, tries to straighten up the wheel as best he can. But it looks like the momentum is with Bradbury. What can Faulkner do here? He has to rely on the slipstream to get the run he needs on Bradbury, and it looks like he might just do it. Will Bradbury go defensive? No, he won't. Faulkner is going to take that inside line and draw alongside him into the final corner. Will he take the position? Bradbury tries to turn in. They're going to go side by side through the final chicane, but it looks like Benjamin Faulkner won that battle out and will take 14th place.
Yeah, it was brilliant heads-up driving by both drivers. I know this race was quite incident-prone very early on, but a lot of heads-up driving displayed by a lot of drivers, and that was absolutely fantastic to watch, and we really didn't know who was going to come out on top until they crossed the finish line.
Well, there are your results. Dance and Neck, your top two, with Swan completing the podium. Ryan Houlihan was promoted to the lead early on and pitted late, ended up holding on for fourth, keeping Daniel Cheney behind him by 1.5 seconds. Matty Jones finishes sixth, the most positions gained in the field. Great drive from him. Alex John, Thomas Hinz, Brett Hender and Liam Hall will round out your top 10.
11th position filled by Mark Noble, followed by Simon Mizomo after his unfortunate early spin. Would have been interesting to see what he could have done if not for that. Isaac Edwards finishes in 13th after his spin. His Race on Oz teammate Ben Faulkner coming home in 14th, just beating Robbie Bradbury into the top 15. Anthony Green and Pete Minott, the last cars to finish on the lead lap, with John Courtney, Shane Best finishing one lap down. Cruz Mason, after his drive through, finishes 4 laps down, and then Brady Baldwin unfortunately out before reaching the start line of the start of the race, involved in that incident with Thomas Hinz not getting off the line.
Shame there for Brady Baldwin. He certainly had up and down luck, but that's going to be the end of it. The last few positions there. Christensen, Gilbert and King serving as race control for the flat sixes. We're going to step aside once again very briefly here on SimSpeed TV, but don't go away. Very shortly, we're going to be racing the 2-litre Tourers, the second race of the weekend for our TCR competition. You're watching the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series on SimSpeed TV.
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing True Force was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modelling.
TrueForce is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. TrueForce force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tyres and the steering wheel. The TrueForce algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second. It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and TrueForce enables us to do that. And the ability to send the audio to the wheel, to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction, really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a TrueForce wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. TrueForce is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. TrueForce benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back once again to round 2 of the 2-litre tours for the Logitech G 22 V8 SCOPS Support Series. We've just finished a very turbulent race in the flat sixes, and we have on standby Cameron Dance for a bit of an interview. Won't be quite as rushed as last night because we're well ahead of schedule. Cam, that was a very interesting race. All three of the top 3 drivers having incidents really early on, and of course Thomas Hinz from 4th place stalling on the line. It was not a good start from the front 2 rows, but then you and Blake managed to bring it back. Did you ever think that after that incident in your redress you guys were ever going to get back to the front, or were you kind of just aiming for a top 5-ish position?
I think based on just the amount of time we lost purely from the redress and then also from the pit stops as well, I was completely thinking that we were just going to get somewhere close to the front, but not quite. I knew we had some decent pace just based on the fact that after I continued on after redressing that I was catching everybody quite quickly. So it was going to be a bit hit and miss. It will very, very close in the end. But to come away with the win in the end again, to make it 2 in a row and start the series off really, really well, was awesome.
It was fantastic to watch, and I don't think any of us expected drama like that. We had 2 safety cars last night, then none in that race earlier, but the start was completely the opposite to last night, with you starting on pole, Blake Neck on second. He got up the inside and ran away. Did you have any issues on the start, or is second place just the place to be on the grid on the run to turn 1?
I think I just need to work on my starts, to be honest. Like, my initial reaction appears to be a little bit better than Blake's, but I'm just not quite confident with this car yet on the standing starts and how to launch them and stuff. So I think I need to work on that a little bit in terms of how much clutch I use on the launch and the secondary part, and go from there. But it's really, really weird how we kind of both did the opposite to what each other did the previous night. And but nevertheless, still a really, really good race. A little bit unfortunate about the incident, but it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of the season holds.
Definitely will. We do go to the Red Bull Ring for flat sixes in 3.5 weeks' time for round 2 of SCOPS. So what are your thoughts on that one? Of course, Red Bull Ring, relatively new to the service, very fast track. How do you reckon the racing is going to be around there compared to here?
I think it'll be probably somewhat similar, but at the same time probably a little bit more pack racing, I think, just primarily down to the fact that there's a lot more drafts. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. You're probably going to see a couple of people running various different wing levels, mostly on the low side, but there'll be, I'd say, 1 or 2 degree differences along the throughout the field. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and who has what sort of advantages throughout the track. So looking forward to it. It's not a track I particularly enjoy all that much, but I'll give it a red hot go, and hopefully we can come away with another win.
Be very interesting to see indeed. Before we let you go, anyone that you would like to thank tonight?
Just obviously shout out to the boys at TechSense Fitstone Motorsport as always, and our partners TechSense Sensors, Rinville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, Majors Garage, Sim3D, you guys for the awesome broadcast, OSR and the team for the awesome series, and well done to Cheney as well on another good result tonight.
Awesome. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you at the Red Bull Ring in a month's time.
Yep, what do you guys? Cheers.
Now, we look forward to the 2-litre tours. They have about 8.5 minutes left of warm-up tonight before their 21-lap sprint. Same format as both the V8s and the flat sixes before them. I am joined by Daniel Yeaman again, as Reese has gone to drive his TCR car around the track and hope for another good result. Dan, Kim, it's great to have you back again. Last night we saw some awesome racing. Your thoughts on the racing that we're about to get?
Thanks, Brad. Good to be here, and might want to keep this quick because we're already onto the grid with that timer in the top left. But fingers crossed we get another good race. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to catch up with the rest of the flat sixes and the V8s due to other racing elsewhere tonight. But let's have a look at that grid here, though, and get underway. Graham Postlethwaite on the front row after the race win last night. He'll be joined by Matthew Pluck on the front row. Carl Sampson will start alongside Matthew Brott on row number 2. Corey Preston alongside Dylan Jordan for the third row here tonight. Reece Gardner starting out at position number 7 with Robert Christo alongside him in 8th. Ben Faulkner in 9th alongside Sebastian Murray Vesberg in 10th. Alex John 11th and Robert Northway rounding out row number 6 as we head over the page.
Brett Hender starting in 13th position with Todd Parks next to him. Hayden Kirk Craig Mason rounding out row 8, Pete Minott and Isaac Edwards on row 9 in 17th and 18th. Row 10 is filled by Reese Hunnell and Shane Best, Thomas Hinz, Liam Hall, Brett O'Keefe, Ryan Green filling out the majority of the pack, and then Mandela Pluck and Zachary Vlasblom rounding out the field with some late additions to the pack. This is a massive grid that we've got lined up. Lights are out, and we are away for race 2 of 2 Litre Tours. Very good start by Posey from the front row. Very good jump by Carl Sampson as well. And Matthew Pluck, a little bit stuck off the grid. They're 2x2 behind him. We've already had contact behind. That's the 808 of Robert Crisdale, who's been absolutely cleaned up on the start. I didn't manage to see what happened, but I think he's had a very low getaway and he's stalled it on the line and has had rear end contact. Everyone else getting away cleanly though as we head through turns 3, 4 and now 5 for the rest of the pack. Single file for the most part, but that was a very energetic start from Posey and Carl Sampson to get away so quickly.
Yeah, just the one accident there unfortunately for Christo on the 808. Just waiting to see if we get a safety car out of race control, because the car is parked on the front stretch. But the field continues racing here for the time being as we head down to turns 8 and 9 for the first time in the race. Postlethwaite leads the field. Sampson up to second place with Matthew Pluck back into third. The Kiwi Sim Racing cars running line astern once again, but they have changed positions here. Pit exit has been... Nope. There it is. Safety car scrambled by race control. Logitech G safety car rolling down the pit lane there. With pardon me, I'll see if I can find who's aboard that one tonight. Ben Christensen aboard the safety car tonight. So, let's grab a virtual racing school replay and have a quick read at what's happened here to Crisdale off the race start there in the black, red and green. And, yep, stall. And one tap to the rear. You can get 2 taps to the rear in a second. Oh, yes, indeed. In fact, shockingly late there. I think that might have been the 57 of Zachary Vlasbom.
No, I think that was Ryan Green coming through and just massive contact on his car. He's still going though, as is... I missed who else made contact with Crisdale as well, but he is now in the pits. Well, he will be very shortly once he gets the all clear from race control to tow. So didn't take us long to get our first safety car, and you could argue that Crisdale's off the racing line, but it doesn't take much for some contact and then being sent into the fence. This is the onboard with Crisdale.
Green.
No, it's not. It's with Green, sorry. He's right at the back of the pack. You can maybe see Crisdale right there, avoiding action, and then...
Well, lack of avoiding action, to be honest.
Yes,
If I'm going to be blunt there, it looks like Green trying to get that car away after a rough start off the line and immediately down the pit lane to get that car fixed up. That's taken some decent damage to the front left. Well, pardon me, so it's the front right that took a hit there. Unfortunately, this won't count to his compulsory pit stop as it's he's brought that car in a lap too soon. So we'll see here how long the drivers wait until they are coming in the pits. I would presume surely they will all opt to take their pit stop here at the end of lap 2, given that they need to take one stop, and waiting for a green flag opportunity will be crazy. Another virtual racing school replay on board, this time looking at the rear of Crisdale's car. So one of the Taipan Esports cars, if I'm not mistaken, that'll be the 666 of Sebastian Murray Vesberg directly behind here at the race start. And we see here in a moment that replay when the cars get away. There we go, stall out, and a little tap there into the left rear of Crisdale's. Car rolling forward, trying to get it started, and unfortunately, yeah, just had a good moment, I think, really, to spot that one there, did Green, but no real reaction until far too late for Crisdale and Green both there, Brad.
Yeah, it was a bit of, I'm not going to call it lazy driving. It wasn't lazy, but definitely less optimal than you would probably want for a race start. There was plenty of room, both left and right side, to be honest, because he was still in his grip box. So there was a car width to the right side, and then 3 or 4 lanes to the left that he could have chosen. And he saw the cars in front braking to avoid as well. So very strange incident indeed. It kind of reminds me of George Russell at, I think it was Abu Dhabi a few years ago in Formula 2. So really strange incident, but we should get away at the end of this lap that we're about to start, lap 3. And interestingly, Carl Sampson comes into the pits, but Glenn Postlethwaite doesn't. So very strange decision making there. Matthew Pluck also in the pits. And we also have a bunch of cars coming in. We have
Samson Pluck, Dylan Jordan, Alex John, Robert Northway, Brett Hender, Hayden Kirk, Thomas Hinz, Isaac Edwards, Mandela Pluck. Okay, that's who I saw that. And Zachary Vlasbom. They're our drivers into the pit lane this time by. So about half the field opting to take the lap 2 pit stop, but it leaves quite a lot of drivers that we know have got the pace. Oh, that's a car backing up at the end of pit lane there. That's someone who's missed the pit box, and they're not going to be too happy with that. That, I believe, was Dylan Jordan in the 21. They're overshooting his pit box. That'll cost him a couple of seconds here. You see here, Samson the first away as the first car in. And then I was going to say the next car out should be Matthew Pluck, but a little stall out of the box. He's able to get out of the way, though. We followed up by Alex John, then Brett Hender, Robert Northway, Hayden Kirk out behind him. Thomas Hinz out next. Dylan Jordan now finally off his jacks. Just going to beat Mandela Pluck, Ryan Green, and Isaac Edwards off the lane. Last car to leave the pits will be Zachary Vlasbom. And then that puts us in a situation where we should hopefully see the safety car back out on track, or back into the pits, pardon, in the next lap or two. And indeed,
I think we'll have...
Sorry there, but yeah, restart instructions being issued just now by the race control team. So, lights out on the Logitech G safety car. I need to make sure I get my words right here tonight. It's been a long day, but that doesn't excuse much. Nevertheless, we're not too far away from going green here, folks. So, just waiting for the field to form up and the safety car to pull away here, Brad.
Yeah, I was going to say, of all the times for you to stall in your pit box during a pit stop, I think under safety car is the one time you're allowed to do that. So, Matthew Pluck definitely reaping the rewards of the safety car with that. So now Glenn Postlethwaite, we saw how good he was yesterday, and we saw how good Corey Preston was yesterday after his contact at turn 1 coming back through the field. He's right on the rear bumper of Posy coming down the main straight. Safety car is still just coming into the pits now. So Posy has full control, keeping that 100 k's an hour. Preston is letting him know that he's there, but he's not allowed to overtake yet. Be interesting to see where Postlethwaite goes. See what sort of advantage he can get, because Preston is over it. It'll be interesting to see what Carl Sampson can do as well as the first car to pit. And Posy goes pretty much immediately. Corey Preston is right there. We're single file behind, trying to break the draft. Is Posy down the main straight. Corey Preston follows him. Third place is Matthew Brunt, followed closely by Reese Gardner, our southpaw racer. And so far, cleanly through turn 1 at the start of the field. Everyone behind, all single file, running well so far. Cole Sampson is currently in 14th position. He's our first place driver on aggregate pit stops, but he's got a long way and a lot of cars to get through to get back to the lead of the race. Preston going round the outside of turn 5. If he can make that stick, he doesn't. He's going to be under attack now from Matthew Brunt, and there's been contact behind.
Reese Gardner gets into the left rear corner of Matthew Brunt. Tripping each other up at turns 6 and 7 here on the restart lap. That's not what you want to see, and to be honest, well, unless I missed something completely there, I would expect we're probably going to see a penalty pretty straightforward for Reese. Given he's one of the drivers who's yet to pit here in this race, that is not what he needs to see here. Another run here for Preston around the outside once again on Postlethwaite. That Honda is a little bit slow in a straight line this time, and Preston gets the job done, and straight to the inside to cover the apex here at the hairpin. Around the outside in one of the ICT, Race on Oz cars. Ben Faulkner in the 042 gets a good run off of the corner here, actually. He's going to get a draft on Postlethwaite as we head down the back straight here. So, Posy not getting this Honda up to speed straight off the restart this time, Brad.
No, he's really not, and Posy had the draft at the initial part of the race, but now that comes back to Benjamin Faulkner as Preston comes along to the racing line, side by side initially, but then Faulkner thinks better of it. I think that's a smart move, but now he's under attack side by side. There's absolute afternoon school rush going down the main straight at the moment. They're 2x2 coming into turn 1. Posy going to lead Sebastian Murray Westberg on the inside of Todd Parks, who gets shuffled back a bit. Craig Mason is there with Reese Gardner just behind as well. So this replay coming up right now, I believe this is going to be the incident between Reese and Brunt. Sorry. And you see Brunt goes wide. Reese has the room, but then just unlocks the steering a little bit too much and unloads Brunt into the outside wall. And you could argue that was just unfortunate timing, but at the same time, that's a pretty slam dunk penalty.
What to say about that one? I think there's maybe half a chance we call that one a 50-50 because Reese hasn't opened up the steering there on the exit of turn 6, and Brunt, after missing the apex, has really tried to swing back down to open the corner up for him. So maybe race control go the other way and say both responsible. Unfortunately, that one's just going to have to be as it is, but we'll wait and see. Meanwhile, though, trouble at the turn 8-9 chicane. Reese Harnell in the 222 is around, sitting on the apex of turn 9, and he's going to collect... Pardon me, that's another car that's just gone. Isaac Edwards in the number 15 for ICT Race on Oz. And that's not what you want to see, another car around early on in the race. Meanwhile, back up the front of the field on board with one of the Hyundais. That would be the 040 of Todd Parks, chasing down Sebastian Murray Vesberg for 4th place now on track here, Brad.
Yeah, this draft train down that main straight is helping a lot of drivers out. Todd Parks is one of them, smack bang in the middle of the top 10 and 5th place, getting the benefit of 4 cars in front of him. They all just fan out as soon as they get onto the main straight. This is that replay, unfortunately, closing down on, I think that was Alex John through the chicane, and it just unsettles the car and unloads him. And then shortly after, Isaac Edwards comes through, and that's a solid whack to that front left of his car, and I think that would have been front right of the other car as well. So very unfortunate run for these guys so far. Isaac carrying quite a bit of damage on his car through turns 1 and 2.
A couple of cars with a slowdown here on this lap. Yeah, a couple of cars cutting the curbs a little too aggressively. A new off-track rules here at Montreal really starting to bite, and the one car yet to serve their outstanding slowdown this lap. Then Postlethwaite in the 95 was happily holding on to 2nd place there, but now has to fall back into Ben Faulkner. Still hasn't cleared it just yet, though. He's going to be running out of time here, and there it goes. In fact, he's waited quite a long time and has to get hard on the brakes. That's a costly slowdown. From 2nd place, he's already back to 7th, Brad. Make that 8th and probably 9th by the time we get down to the hairpin here.
Yeah, the slowdowns around here are absolutely brutal. We're getting a replay of it now, and yeah, that's going to do it. That's a lot of grass. That's a Sebastian Vettel line through there, who I don't think was at fault, but I digress. That's not the optimal line through the 3-4 chicane, and the slowdowns around here are absolutely brutal, even through that midsection where the straights aren't as long as the one that he's on now. And, just saw a late hit. I didn't quite catch who it was. Posy is in the pits though, so probably a good time while your lap's already slow, just try and maximize that. It'll get clean air as well. Carl Sampson, the first car to pit, is coming through turn 1 now. He's up to 9th position with all the contact. Make that 8th position now as he passes Shane Best into turn 1. And he's on a great charge through the field. He is 7 seconds behind Corey Preston for the lead of the race. And we saw what the pit stop cycle did in the Porsches, and he's 4 times as close as Cam Dance and Blake Neck were last race.
Yeah, drive-through penalty coming through from race control. Indeed, the 94 of Reese Gardner will be coming down the lane to serve a drive-through on top of the pit stop that still awaits Reese. Well, I thought it might be a bit of a 50-50 situation there perhaps, but race control indeed seeing that it was relatively clear for them in their case as to what was up there. So not the way that Reese would want this second race of the round to go, and apparently he's still up in 5th place. That's not going to be for much longer now.
Yeah, like you said, it was a very 50-50 incident. It could call either way, but I think to give benefit of the doubt, you do have to call the incident if there is contact and a driver loses positions. But this battle we're watching on screen now, it is for 7th place with Brett O'Keefe leading the way. It will be the battle for 6th when Reese Gardner takes his penalty. He's the next car in front of Brett O'Keefe, but Carl Sampson is the net leader of this race in 8th position. We see moves further back as well. That is
Tim's up the inside of Robert Northway down to the final chicane here. Later on the brakes, looks to have got that job done quite nicely there in the Honda TCR. Through the World Champions, no dramas at all into the pits he comes. Meanwhile, more drivers down onto the pit lane, this time by, pardon me if I can actually find them, Reece Gardner, meanwhile, also serving that drive-through penalty. But it's Liam Hall in the number 49 bringing that car down. That also looked quite a bit worse for wear than I'm sure he would have wanted. Meanwhile, back up to the front of the field. Less than half a second separating these two drivers. Corey Preston leading the race, but Ben Faulkner not letting him go anytime soon as they make their way into turns 6 and 7. And definitely starting to just keep the pressure on here in the next couple of laps. Both drivers still needing to pit in this race, Brad, as we approach, just crossed the 1/3 race distance mark at the end of lap 7 as we are now on lap 8 of 21 here.
Yeah, 1/3 distance and 2/3 of the field has already pitted. Only the top 6 have not pitted yet. That's Corey Preston, Ben Faulkner, Sebastian, Murray Westberg, Craig Mason, Brett O'Keefe, and Shane Best are the only cars left to pit in this race so far. So everyone deciding to pit early, which is helping those who pitted under the safety car and starting to hinder anyone who didn't, with the field as close as it is. Carl Sampson's down to 8.4 seconds behind Corey Preston, but pit stops are taking in the realm of 50 seconds to complete, so that's going to be a massive swing if we don't get a safety car. And Carl Sampson on the back of Shane Best now running down that long back straight, side by side. Early goes Carl Sampson to the inside. Shane Best tries to stick it around the outside.
Oh,
Carl Sampson just gives him the room, and Shane Best just keeps it out of the Wall of Champions as well. So as much as this isn't Shane Best's fight, he is absolutely giving it everything.
Meanwhile, from the lead of the race, Corey Preston brings the number 98 down in the lane, but he's missed the box. Overshoots his pit box by only a metre, but that'll cost him a good second or two to reverse that car back up. And as you see here now, all these drivers who have pitted filing through. We'll just see how much time he loses. The only way he's getting that back surely is a safety car here, Brad, later on for another incident to come at some point in the distant future. But it's just the kind of thing he didn't need. It gets the car going once again, but about similar time in the box as it would still happen. 23.6 is still actually quicker than what Carl Sampson was able to achieve as we look on board now with Glenn Postlethwaite, the other driver from the lead of the race, to come into the pits, and he's going to actually be behind. Pardon me, he's going to be behind Corey Preston by quite some margin here. So, Posy, we did see a bit of a scruffy pit entry due to traffic, but he's a lot further back than I thought he would have been, given that they were both on similar strategies here, Brad.
Well, don't forget that Posy also had that slowdown that he had to slam on the brakes coming out of turn 9, so that would have cost him about 3 or 4 seconds. So Carl Sampson, in the meantime, has got up the inside of Shane Best through the hairpin. They run side by side, but I think Carl Sampson is going to have that run. Shane Best now in the draft, but if Carl Sampson runs that inside lane, which he is, he should be safe from the pass. And of course, behind him, Matthew Pluck, his KSR teammate, Shane Best, tries to send it around the outside. Fair play, but in the end has to pull out. He's going to get a slowdown. Nothing wrong from Carl Sampson there, in my opinion. But Matthew Pluck going to get the run now on Carl Sampson at the line. It is still Carl Sampson in the lead. Only 3 cars left to pit now. Ben Faulkner, Sebastian Murray Westberg, and Shane Best. So these guys who pitted under the safety car are getting a huge advantage. Thomas Hinz is in 6th place behind Shane Best. So that's aggregate 3rd once cycles work their way through. So he's had a really good race, up from 21st position after his nightmare yesterday. So brilliant race from him. And these 2 KSR drivers are not holding back from fighting each other, even though they hold aggregate lead of this race.
The Hayden Kirk in the number 371 for Kiwi Sim Racing in the Honda Civic Type R gets up the inside and pretty aggressively on Robert Northway there. It's actually opening the door for several more cars to have a go here. Brett Hender in the number 10. Fusion Sim Racing has to look to the outside at turn 8. Northway says, no thank you, that's my place. Oh, forces Hender on the outside. Contact and immediately pulls over, actually. No slowdown, so this is a redress voluntarily there from Northway. So, well, I could have sworn it was just a voluntary redress, and yeah, it looks like it because that was far too quick to serve a slowdown. And allows a couple more cars through to see Reece Gardner up the inside of teammate Brett Hender for Fusion Sim Racing. Reese, though, yet to give us a stop in the pit lane, having only served the drive-through up to this point, so still going to be a recovery drive from him. Race leaders stay out, so 2 cars from the front yet to pit. Shane Best is in the middle of the pack and looks to the inside of Thomas Hinton, so he stays out once again. I'm feeling this can't possibly be doing Shane Best any good. He has to be banking now on another safety car, but with the field starting to thin out a little bit, although we do have a pack effectively from Hayden Kirk in 8th to Robert Northway in 13th, just out the back of shot from here as we jump on board now with Alex John in the number 77. Pit stop complete, net 4th on track as a result. You can see here now, just starting to pressure the rear of Shane Best. Take a lap here on board at Montreal, Brad.
Yeah, we come through turn 3 and turn 4 now. You can use a lot of that curb on the inside. Don't use too much grass on the inside of 4 though. Use all the wall on the exit. Turn 5 is such an amazing corner. The car is on that knife edge. You can't have too much steering lock when you break down for turn 6. Use a lot of that inside curb. Stay left to open up the right-hander turn 7. The front wheel drive, Shane Best feeling that front wheel drive torque steer into that outside wall. Compromises his run down towards turn 8. Little bit of thinking time. The second longest straight after the back straight, turn 8 and 9 now. Use all those curbs or as much as you can without an off track after that update and run right out to the wall. Again, this is why we love this circuit. Massive curves running right out to the wall. It's an Australian's wet dream in sim racing. Braking hard for that the hairpins. So many lines you can run through here depending on what car you have in their downforce package. And now this long straight down towards past the casino towards the final chicane. Big draft zone for Alex John on Shane Best, but the Honda getting the advantage out of the corner. Now the Hyundai starts to come back, coming in towards the chicane. We'll see if Shane Best pits again. No, he doesn't. He stays out one more time. Monster, both of those curbs run right out to that wall. Don't hit that tyre barrier though. That's going to compromise his run. Now Alex John has a run up the inside along the pit wall towards turn 1. Shane Best isn't going to give him much room though. He tries to force him shallow, but ultimately that inside line wins out and he's going to have the inside for 2 to block any defense from Shane Best. And that was a very good lap by Alex John. Very patient and pounced at the opportune moment.
And there, our previous race leader, Ben Faulkner, has taken the time to come down the lane here. We just crossed into the halfway mark. It leaves Sebastian Murray Vesberg at the front of the field, yet to come into the lane. Gap of around 9.5 seconds. We'll see him trundle down towards the back here. But meanwhile, let's keep our eyes elsewhere because we've got a bit of racing going on here. This is the 94 of Reese Gardner up the inside of the 04 from Mandela Pluck. Inside, outside, which way do you go, boys? Opens the door to Brett Hender to have a look on the inside here. So we've now got ourselves Fusion, Fusion and KSR lining up one by one here. Down to turns 8 and 9. Pluck now on the defensive from Hender. Does Hender look to the inside? The answer is no. He's going to stay in line here and try and set up the run for the back straight, you'd think. The hairpin is a good opportunity, but as we were talking about, that drafting opportunity with a good exit off the hairpin makes it incredibly difficult to make a move stick. Meanwhile, drama on track. The 678 is crashed in the middle of the World Champions. Pete Minette is around and with a meatball flag. That car is not in a happy place. Backing it up off the racing line is good to see, but cars down in the lane. Murray Vesberg immediately takes that pit entry as a result. That's a good call there. He won't be able to hang on to the race lead here, but with a meatball, surely the 678 calls for a tow in a second. And indeed he has. We wait to see. Do race control. Call a safety car here. As we jump to a virtual racing school replay, Brad.
Yeah, this was very heavy contact. We see him running down that back straight now up towards the Wall of Champions. Still no safety car call from race control, which is what we want. This is what Carl Jevson wants. He gets that curb and then just... That's a massive bit of contact. Lucky for that SSR car to be able to get the car bounced out of the way, and safety car has been called by our race control, Henry King.
And that's because, pardon me for jumping in, that's because the 222 of Reese Harnell was around and off the track in between turns 3 and 4, and he's blinking. So that's what that means. So you see here, on board with Matthew Brunt there in the 134, passing by the stricken Pete Minette there. But yeah, the 222 of Reese Harnell also off in the grass at turn 4. Hopefully get a chance to see what happened to them as the 001 Logitech G safety car awaits the race leader of Carl Sampson and slowly trickles out onto the track in the meantime. Cars now obviously circulating around if they've done their pit stop or coming down onto the lane now to get that stop done. Still awaiting a pit stop from Shane Best. I'm a little concerned here that he hasn't come down the lane yet and is still going around. He obviously, like everyone else, has come down the lane now as soon as that's called. So we wait to see. Surely Shane Best here, he backs off Alex John in front of him. Surely now it's time for him to gun this through the final chicane down onto the pit lane.
Yeah,
There it
and
is.
he does exactly that. So I think that's about 8 or 9 laps, a little bit too late, but in the pits nonetheless, and he gains a little bit of time. And Robert Northway in behind him as well, because Northway hadn't technically served his pit stop, I don't think, because he was involved in that. No, that was Rob Crisdale. I am getting everyone confused. I'm surprised that Robert Northway is in. I didn't think he'd need to, but that was that incident for Reese Harnell that we just saw on screen then. And wow, Carl Sampson now has a very advanced Thomas Tins right behind him, up 19 spots, is looking for the even 20, but Carl Sampson drove brilliantly yesterday. He's driven brilliantly today, pitting under the first safety car. And with, I'm going to assume, 7 laps to go once the safety car pulls in, this is going to be an absolutely thrilling finish to what's been an amazing weekend of SCOPS supports.
Indeed. Lights are still on the safety car and cars are still waiting on track for permission to escape back to the pits. So I would almost wager here we're going to only have a 6-lap dash to the end, because with 8 to go currently, I'll have 7 to go once I complete this lap here. And then, well, if my estimates here on a procedure are correct, we'll have this lap and 1 more under safety car. So now's the chance for these lead drivers here to take a bit of an edge off the tyres. They might be getting a little bit warm here, so the chance to cool the car off a little bit. It will mean, obviously, opening lap on the restart might be a little bit dicey once again, but it's a good chance of everyone here who pitted early to not be under too much pressure from the guys behind. They've got the track position, so to hang on to the cars once they come back up to temp here, Brad.
Yeah, and as we know, the front tyres in these cars are so fragile because they have all the weight of steering, deceleration, acceleration, all the weight transfer goes through those wheels as they go through those changes in direction and acceleration in both directions. So taking an opportunity to cool the tyres to make them last to the end is going to be really important, because the top 8 cars, unsurprisingly, pitted under that first safety car. The 98 of Corey Preston pitted 5 laps ago. 5 laps ago. The 042 of Ben Faulkner pitted 2 laps ago, so he was very beneficial by pitting later. And then Sebastian Murray Westberg down in 13th position has pitted just 1 lap ago, so very mixed bag inside that top 10 and just outside of it, but that top 8 cars all on even tyre strategy. It's going to be very interesting to see how they can hold on with what will be 6 laps to go.
Indeed. Meanwhile, we just have a look here at the number 49 of Liam Hall in the pit lane. The front end of his Audi RS3 looking a little bit worse for wear and slowly buffing out, but that will take a little while longer to get that job done as we take a nice good look at his front bumper. I believe, we're watching there as it buffs out ever so slightly, so good fun to see here, the damage model and the visual effects on board. Although I get the feeling our producer, Jay Kenny, is taking a bit too much of a keen eye on the bumper here as we're zooming ever closer in, and bop.
Someone just got the mallet out and was like, bonk, and it's fixed. Problem solved. We just need the iRacing mechanics to be rendered in so we can see a guy come out with a mallet and bash the hood back down to straight, and he's perfectly fine. Oh, that looked like it was crabbing, but that was just a bit of wheel spin. So there we go, the magical iRacing mallet lives on. I'm going to start a law about that. Every commentary I have, someone crashes, I'm going to guarantee that there's a bit of law in there with some magical mallet that fixes cars, because it needs to be a thing. But we have 6 laps to go at the end of this lap, so I'll get back on topic.
Have you had a long day or something, have you, Brad? Because this is a new device for us to go over, the magical mallet, as you so put it. But all right then. Lights are out on the Logitech G safety car. It's pulling away back to pit lane. Race control is now in the hands of Carl Sampson, or at least it will be once that safety car has made it into the pit lane. 6 laps of racing remaining. It's just 14 minutes, just under 13 and a half or thereabouts, probably. I'll call it 13 minutes when we get to the lane. But nevertheless, these cars lapping at the speed they do. We're going to the lap count tonight, which is great to see despite the 2 safety cars. So, safety car is now in. When does Carl Sampson go? Surely in the middle of the final chicane like we've seen all other restarts here. But we wait to see here, Brad, what the play is.
Yeah, so far he's holding station 100 k's an hour, and he accelerates mid-chicane. Thomas Hinz very alert, and Matthew Pluck, his KSR teammate right behind, is going to have to pressure Hinz to try and help his teammate out to get this wins. We both know Hinz is a very aggressive but tactile and fair driver. Carl Sampson is very experienced in sim racing. The 2x2 action behind as well, coming around turn 2. That's
no.
Oh, what's happened? What have I missed?
Trouble.
Oh.
Shane Best and Robert Northway have gotten together at turn 2. I think Northway was acknowledging, Northway there waiting to allow Best to get that car recovered and these two to get back underway. Best not too happy with that one. A little bit of a sweep towards the nose of Northway, but we'll grab that one now on the virtual racing scorecard. I was seeing some front to rear further up ahead, but what have we got here into turn 2? Oh, goodness me. Oh, no, a bit of grass from Northway, and that seals the deal. Yeah, Best wasn't too impressed, but not quite what Northway was hoping to pull off there. Racing resumes, and we're back with live pictures.
Yeah, and of course, being TCR cars, a lot of the guys set the brake bias as far back as they can to try and help rotate the car while saving those front tyres. So Northway getting that grass and hitting the brakes is going to do about exactly what we saw, and just locks him up and throws him left. And unfortunately, Shane Best, an absolute bystander there, but he got onto race control immediately, so it'll be interesting to see if Northway gets a penalty for that. He did redress, but also Shane Best lost a lot of time, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But we now have 5 laps to go very shortly as Carl Sampson, Thomas Hinz and Matthew Pluck all come through that final chicane. The draft of these cars really working in everyone else's favour. Thomas Hinz pulls out very early to try and get the inside run into turn 1. He's not quite there. Carl Sampson does leave him the room though, but he'll still have the run into turn 2, so still holding station. If he can back him up into Matthew Pluck, they can try and go for the 1-2, but he doesn't want to slow down too much, puts him in a vulnerable position. Alex Johns in 4th, not too far behind either, 1 second behind Matthew Pluck, so there's all to play for in this top 10. Lots of positions to gain and lose very easily, like we saw with Robert Northway and Shane Best on the restart. And these guys are leaving absolutely nothing in the tank.
The drivers making moves up and down the field. Corey Preston down the front straight, also along with Glenn Postlewaite. Both drivers looking to recover after taking the late pit stop in this race. Preston is up to 8th. And you see here, though, we continue to watch the race leaders as Hinz, again, looking to the inside, I think, just trying to get Sampson just to open up the corner as a preventative measure. See here, though, again, close, down to the hairpin. Does he make the move? I was just going to say, though, as we snapped for a moment back to Ben Faulkner, but back again to the front of the field with Thomas Hinz. So down to the hairpin. That's a good line there from Hinz. Forcing Sampson out very wide. That's going to compromise the exit, having to wait on the power there. Right up underneath the front bumper. Meanwhile, side by side between Hender and Preston. That is for 7th place on track. So we've got ourselves 2 battles to watch here, Brad. Who takes the lead into the final chicane here on lap 17 of 21?
Thomas Hinz running the inside line is in a perfect position. He's actually pulled in front before the chicane. Corey Preston breaks slightly later than Brett Hender, gets that position nicely as well. So inside lane working for that final chicane. What's
Speaking
happened?
of the final chicane, Isaac Edwards has had one heck of a moment, but recovered the car and no drama and damage done. But that's going to be a slowdown and track position loss for him. He's been having a relatively quiet race, but nevertheless a clean and comfortable race, but not to be for him anymore. He'll have to make some work up there. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, 4 laps ago, Sampson now on by Hins, but Hins into the fence at turn 4. I think thankfully it was a very straight side swipe. That'll just buff in the corner without doing too much damage, I think. But it's just the kind of things that Sampson likes to see. His rival is under pressure now. As we see a side-by-side replay shot on the right of Isaac Edwards, the rear of that car. Oh, goodness me, Isaac. Ooh. Diving to the left under brakes, I think, lost the rear completely. Adding a touch of grass on the outside for good measure. Very lucky to hit nobody and come back out on track just to the inside there alongside the pit wall.
Yeah, he's very lucky not to snap into that wall on the outside that runs parallel to the rowing track as well, because that's where the car was pitched originally, so he did very well to save that. Side by side, that is Preston and Dylan Jordan for 6th position. Preston sitting in behind, but he will get that draft. Dylan Jordan getting the draft off of Hayden Kirk in front as well, as we'd expect, but Preston right up behind that rear wheel again. It looks like he's going to try and repeat the move from last lap, and he pulls out kind of late this time, but he's still there, wheels in line. Can he brake late enough or just enough? Can he keep it out of the wall on exit? Just about. Oh, someone else didn't though. I think that was Robert Northway.
Mandela Pluck actually in the 04. Another one of the KSR machines. Unfortunately, not having a good night there. Has to contemplate backing it up ever so slightly. Meanwhile, oh no, trouble for the 666 of Murray Vesberg. He's around on the front straight. And he's found the World Champions, I think, there, Brad. That doesn't look too healthy, and having dragged itself to the right side of the road, that screams a run in with the outside wall at the final corner. Safety car deployed once again. Goodness me, we've got 2.5 laps to go, and we're bringing it out for a final lap dash.
Yeah, this is absolutely nuts. We're getting that replay now, brought to you by Virtual Racing School, as always. This was a 2-car incident. Guess who it is? It's Westberg and who?
That would be Mandela. In fact, Mandela Pluck actually just spinning all by himself over the curbs, and Murray Vesberg just too hot into the final chicane to take the place back, and finds the World Champions and the concrete there, ready to rip that right front to shreds. So that's really unfortunate. Good to see no car contact between the two, but Murray Vesberg paying the price for the aggression with at the end there of lap 18, and that is his race done as the leaders make their way down the front straight now. Or I believe, pardon me, no, we're looking at that replay once again. In fact, very unusual incident there for Pluck behind. Just almost a bit like it netcode contacted from one direction, because the car, I could have sworn I saw that hop up on its rear axle for a second. Here's another angle of it into that final chicane. So Murray Vesberg around the outside, as you do. Has the car just gotten loose over the curbs? Surely it has. Oh!
No. That's what I thought it was. I thought that was a big net. That was a monster net code too, because the car should not do that. Even if you hit the brakes, it's not going to lurch as much as it did then. That's why I thought both of them were involved, but semi-indirectly. And netcode being a big part of that. You see Murray Westberg around the outside there, very unfortunate. And yeah, brakes don't do that. That's like an anchor hitting the sea floor, how it pitches that car forward, and really unfortunate for him to be caught up in that. Even more unfortunate was Murray Westberg, who is the reason we're having this safety car, and that was a very strange incident to have netcode have that sort of an effect on a car, but I guess that's the joys of online racing.
Well, you were talking about the magical hammer in the pit lane there, as we watch another replay. In fact, this is side by side. That has got to be Dylan Jordan alongside Corey Preston the lap prior, if I'm not mistaken. Same lap, pardon me. Preston leaving absolutely nothing, but able to keep it away from the wall. What I was going to say was, in fact, as we watch here, the rest of the field make its way through the corner, and there we go, another angle. Finds the tyre bundle, but unfortunately that was no mercy compared to the concrete. What I was going to say here before we cut back to live pictures with the safety car pulling away is, we've had the magical hammer in the pit lane, but I feel like we've just seen the mystical sledgehammer just come out and absolutely thrash the front end of Pluck's car there with a monumental arrest arresting of the momentum there. But one lap of racing. It's going to be a all-out sprint. Thomas Hinz has the control of the field, but he's got a hungry pack of cars. Carl Sampson, Matthew Pluck, Alex John, Hayden Kirk, Dylan Jordan, Corey Preston. The list goes on in terms of, I reckon, who could win this if something doesn't go to plan. All eyes on the race lead, though, as we get ready for this final lap dash.
Robert Northway trails this last car in the lead lap. He's in 21st position. I wouldn't count him out of winning this race yet either. We have, what have we got? 4.36 kilometers left of racing for round one of the V8 SCOPS Support. Thomas Hinz
goes early.
Goes very early. He does. Carl Sampson and Matthew Pluck are right there. Hold on to your hats. This is going to be one epic lap. Corey Preston is in 7th place. He's still wanting to get past Dylan Jordan as well. So far into turn one, we are okay, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Single file so far, too wide in the background though. Not quite sure who that was. It's
Pluck up the inside of Liam.
And
Liam Hall, I think. In contact. Robert Northway, I think, getting into the rear of Liam Hall. That's not good for Northway. Re-enters the place, but trips up Ryan Green for good measure. But we'll have to get back to the front of the field because it's definitely on. Who's got their car switched on first at the end of this race? Sampson is definitely in position, but still 2 corner complexes to go before we get that long back stretch. He's in a good position here to just close in a fraction down the stretch with a teammate, Matthew Pluck, there, able to ride shotgun, I think, now. Surely a bit of a quote-unquote team order is going to be coming out here from KSR to end this race and get them across the line. If not 1-3, at least 2 and 3, without much drama here, Brad.
Yeah, this is going to be all to play for out of this hairpin. Carl Sampson needs the best run of his life. He is right on the back of Thomas Hinz coming out of that hairpin. This is going to be all to play for. We saw Simon Mazoma go 2x2 to get 4th position in the V8s last night. Can Carl Sampson repeat that outside or inside? I don't know which he's going to go. Thomas Hinz goes inside to defend. Carl Sampson still in draft, pulls outside just before the bridge. This is going to be everything for these two guys. Carl Sampson holds it around the outside, becomes the inside for the final part, but no, Thomas Hinz comes back across. Now Matthew Pluck's going to come back. Alex John's not too far behind either. He might even get Carl Sampson to the line. This is going to be so close. They're nearly 3 wide, but it's still KSR 2 and 3. Pluck winning out by 0.084 of a second. 8 hundredths of a second separating second and third. Thomas Hinz just doing enough. And even Alex John was only 9 hundredths of a second behind Carl Sampson in the end. That was an absolutely awesome last race, and that pretty much sums up the weekend's racing so far. That was fantastic. Nothing left in the tank. Final lap sprint for everyone, and that was awesome. Here are our final results. Thomas Hinz coming home with the win after his very good restart just before that last one. Matthew Pluck just edging out Carl Sampson for 2nd place to round out the podium. Alex John not too far off. Hayden Kirk finishes the top 5. Dylan Jordan manages to keep in front of Corey Preston for 6th and 7th, with Brett Hender, Glenn Postlethwaite and Matthew Brunt rounding out the top 10.
And over the page in just a moment, there it is. Todd Parks brings it home in 11th in the 040. Ahead of Reese Gardner in 12th. Recovery drive there after the earlier incident for Reese. Brett O'Keefe bringing it home 13th place in the 22, ahead of Craig Mason in number 47. Ben Faulkner probably ruining what could have been there with a good pace early on, but strategy not quite working out there. He'll have to settle for 15th. Isaac Edwards, teammate there at Race on Oz, brings it home just behind in 16th place. Zachary Vlasbaum, started from the rear of the field, has done well to move up a couple of spots there. In fact, a total of 9. Beg my pardon there, up to 17th. Mandela Pluck, there we saw the unfortunate incident for him. I said magical sledgehammer. I'm actually going to, I think, rethink that one. I think that was Thor's invisible hammer there, Brad, for Pluck at the end of that race. Shane Best, unfortunately, caught up in several woes, not entirely of his own making. 19th will have to do. Liam Hall rounding out our top 20 there. Another case, I think, of what could have been. Over the page, it's Robert Northway, our last car to finish on the lead lap. And then our retirees of Ryan Green, Sebastian Murray Vesberg, Reese Harnell, Pete Manette, and Robert Crisdale with our final 3 drivers there, Christensen, Gilbert, and King, race control and safety car. Well, Brad, that's definitely been a great way to finish off the first weekend of SCOPS Supports. Unfortunately, haven't been able to catch all of it here, but great to be able to cover at least the 2-litre Tourers here with you last night and tonight. You see here our finishing order as they come across the line. Hins leading home. It's Pluck on the right side ahead of Sampson there on the left. And Alex John, he was certainly pushing and had a good run out of the final hairpin, but just not quite able to close up the gap there to the end, and has to settle for 4th place.
Yeah, another classic finish at the Montreal circuit, and that sums up this weekend's racing perfectly. We do have race winner Thomas Hins on standby right now. It was a very, very well-driven race. That second restart, or that second last restart, sorry, was the one that really won it for him. Hinsey, that was a bull to watch. 21st to first. That was a complete polar opposite to the rest of the weekend. Give us a quick summary of that race from your perspective, because that was awesome to watch.
One sec, there we go. Sorry, forgot my push talk button. I don't know. Frankly, I really don't know, because I've just done before this because I'm a madman. I did AHU before this for 3 hours, whatever. Jumped straight into the Porsches, which probably explains why I stalled like a noob on the start. Anyway, sorry to Brady for that. But yeah, then came with this, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm at the back, so let's just have a go, see what happens. And yeah, just sent it pretty much, literally. Obviously, safety car helped, being able to pit early, got that out of the way, and then just was trying to pass people, and suddenly when that last safety car, I was like, hang on, that's first right up there. I was like, well, I guess seeing as we're here, we may as well have a go. And yeah, somehow got the win. I don't know how. I'm as shocked as anybody, because I wasn't expecting that. But huge credit to everybody, really. They're all very clean, especially for touring cars. But big credit to Carl and Matthew particularly. They were super clean. Just awesome stuff. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah, it was that first pit stop, I think, won it for a lot of you guys. Corey Preston finished in 7th. He was the highest person who didn't pit under that initial safety car. You have to look down in 9th position to see anyone else that didn't. And it really brought you into the fold, because it was a free pit stop, and half the field did and half the field didn't. And it put you right up there where you needed to be. And of course, that second last safety car, you had a really good opening couple of laps, and then you just managed to hold station. The Civic, I haven't been able to drive it as much, is obviously very fragile over the curbs. How did you manage to handle that throughout the race?
Yeah, I think this is, as always, Brett Loxton is the real hero behind the scenes. He always does a lot of sets when he can for a lot of the stuff we do. So he's the real hero. I just turn up and drive the thing and try and defense it, and only succeed maybe 50% of the time. But yeah, he was trying to get to work over the curbs, and even with all just trying to sort of test it, it's still as I felt as I kept going over the curbs, it still didn't really like it. But it's just sort of adjusting to it, I guess, just hitting it the right amount and sort of knowing how it was going to react. It was very weird. It certainly seems to really not like the curbs compared to the Audi and the Hyundai, which made it a bit tricky. But yeah, just sort of went for it and just tried to predict what it was going to do. That's why I think there's a point there I tapped the wall after I got the lead through the chicane there, because it just reacted and didn't quite grip up like I hoped. So yeah, kind of just trial and error, I guess, really. So yeah, but it worked out. It was good to have the Honda up top. It was good amongst all the Hyundais. That's really good.
Yeah, definitely seems to be the pick of the crop, does the Hyundai. We miss next round in the 2-litre Tourers at the Rebel Ring, and then we are back at Mosport, which is a very popular track for SCOPS. It's been going there for as long as I can remember. What are your thoughts going to that? Very different to here, but of course, same country, just slightly west a little bit from where we are right now. So thoughts going into Mosport for the 2-litre Tourers in about 2 months' time?
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Motorsport is one of my favourites. It's interesting because Montreal I don't really particularly like, to be honest. So that's why I'm still just as amazed as this. But yeah, Motorsport I've always loved. That place is just an awesome track. I love how flowing it is and how fast it is. So haven't really done much touring cars around there, I don't think. So that'll be interesting. I'm used to doing supercars or GT stuff. So yeah, it'll be a bit of adjustment just into these things around there. But should be a lot of fun. You know, heaps of draft down the back straight. So you'll be able to draft train lots of toing and froing for position. So yeah, should produce, just like it was here, just should produce some awesome racing again.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to it, and I'm sure you do as well. Anyone you would like to thank before we let you go tonight?
Yeah, just the usual, I guess. Usual guys at HJR for their support as always. They're so good. All of them are at HJR. Just a great crew, and Sim Racing Channel as well. Just the both of them, awesome. And all the sponsors on the car, Jinx shifters and the like. And big thanks to Henry and Co. For, I know Henry's got a lot of love. He puts a lot of love in the supports, so it really shows through with the racing we see. So big shout out to Henry and everyone there who gets the sports running, because it really is an awesome thing to see. And yeah, big shout out to you guys for, I'm sure it was an amazing broadcast, as it always is. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Hinsey. We will see you next time for sure. Well, Daniel, that rounds out what has been a very exciting couple of nights of support. I'm very much looking forward to go back and watching those races, because all 6 of the races we had this weekend were very similar in how intense they were, but very different in how they were intense. So I'm sure you're looking forward to watching them back as well.
I sure hope I get a chance to watch them back, because yeah, I've unfortunately missed out on most of the V8s and flat 6s action. I only get a chance to catch a little bit of last night's racing that you were commentating there on the end, but the fun doesn't stop here this weekend. SimSpeed is busy with iRacing Grand Prix Series in the morning, but the main game is just around the corner. We still have one more warm-up event, Super Split 2, on the first tomorrow, Sunday evening, but V8SCOPS is almost here to start the new year. Supports will return at round number 2. Pardon me, I need to actually brush up on which series we see next. It will be flat 6s at the Red Bull Ring, alongside the all-new Jetta Cup, filling the secondary support series for that one there. But it's action aplenty as we get the V8SCOPS and supports calendar underway. Well done to our finishers there as we see them cross the line once again there. 1, 2, 3, 4. How you like it? My name's been Daniel Yeaman. Big thanks to Brad Wingard for being here for all of the support series tonight. Thanks to Logitech G for supporting the series and coming on board as title partner. Jake Kennedy on production, thank you once again for your work. But it's time for us to say goodbye for now and get ready for all the action still to come tomorrow.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney! Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
6 very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?